right, and welcome to episode 100 of The Bench, where we promised very unique and nice things, but we almost had to cancel this episode today because I have flooding in my house. Yay! So basically, it's been raining torrential downpours in the middle of Missouri, and I had water leak into my basement. And so now it's either going to cost me a $5,000 deductible on my homeowner's insurance or $20,000 out of pocket, depending on whether or not my homeowner's insurance picks up my claim. Woohoo! I'm having a really good day, and my HVAC went out, and it's hot as fuck in here. So I'm having a bad day. I'm having a really bad day. But we're here because we gotta be. We gotta make sure that the podcast is on time for episode 100 on Tuesday at server restart.
We gotta be. I mean, we had the show notes prepared. We were talking a little bit about what we got to talk about. And then Tettles just 30 minutes before our normal recording time is just like, I cannot record. There is an emergency going on in my house. And I'm like, oh no. And then I'm like, well, think about it. The water already did its damage, right, Tettles? Just record the pod.
Yeah, that's what I got some guy out here and he told me, yeah, the water's already done its damage. You should just call us back during normal service time. And so I'm either going to spend, again, like I said,
oh my God.
the water came in through this door. There was an inch of standing water in my house.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry to laugh.
This is the worst day of this decade for me. I am having a really bad day. And I am praying that my homeowner's insurance will cover this because I don't know, for some reason claims in the United States just get denied for random bullshit, and so if it gets denied, I'm going to be very, 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 very sad. And poor.
Dude, speaking of the way the United States is, this is the most off-topic episode ever so far. Have you guys seen the Reckless Ben Lego video or any of that drama yet?
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Oh, is the guy that got arrested?
Yeah, many times.
The $200,000 thing, right?
Yeah. That might be candidate for video of the year, I think. It is absolutely insane. Everyone is freaking out about it, rightfully so. If you're listening to this and you haven't watched it, I don't remember what the title of the first one is. It's like, I helped find $200,000 of stolen Lego. And it's basically this guy who... he describes himself as like a performative journalist or something. Basically like someone who is just, his name is Reckless Ben and he just is completely out of his mind. And I've been not really more just looking into his content to see what kind of
he is. The fact that the police gets called on him 10 times is peak cinema.
Oh yeah. I don't want to spoil much of it, but I would just highly recommend if anyone is looking for a YouTube rabbit hole to go down, that is a solid minimum 2 hours of content.
Growl known for going down the YouTube rabbit holes. Speaking of YouTube rabbit holes, Tettles with some great YouTube videos this week.
Oh yeah, dude, do you like that one about the trinket?
The trinket's sick.
Yeah, so there's a trinket, it's like Dark Moon Dominion Blood or something like that. It's one of the Dark Moon deck embellishment trinkets, and if you have all of your stats at an equilibrium, you get multiple versions of that stat proc, and it's pretty meh by itself, but if you have multiple versions of the stat to proc, then it's quite a bit better than some of the other options. I think it's BIS for most people, because embellishments are so terrible.
Yeah, apparently there was some DK or something who was using a trinket. Basically, the way the trinket works is it gives you some amount of your lowest stat.
Yeah.
But if you just have all of your stats equal, it gives you all of them, and it turns so you're scuffing your gear to have an omega powerful trinket. I think that's really mega cool. I hope they don't nerf it or do anything about it, but
I wouldn't be shocked if they fixed it. Cool. It reads like it's unintended to work like that. Your damaging spells and abilities have a chance to grant Farstrider's Guile, increasing your lowest secondary stat by 598 for 15 seconds. Now, what the unique things that people are doing is they're using Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm gems, right, to be able to get the +2, +3 that they need.
Yeah, it's sick.
I actually think, from a gearing perspective, this might be the most interesting gearing has been since Corruption.
Oh, absolutely. That's cool.
Just that one trinket, though, not gearing itself, right?
No, having to balance your stats to, figure out how do I get my stats to be equal, that kind of thing. I think there's a level of optimization that people enjoy that is typically part of RPGs.
That, it works with Reckless potions, too, doesn't it?
Wouldn't Reckless Potions disable it? I know that people are now... so the Trinket is actually really BIS for some specializations. I know it works really well with some and pretty poor with others, depending on how much you want to stack into one or two stats and like how bad versatility and whatever else is for you. But I know some people are like, you know, they're no longer using Reckless Potion, and instead they're actually taking off the secondary stat proc weapon effects too, like the weapon enchants, to get more like higher uptime of the 4 stack.
Ooh, maybe it isn't Reckless Potion. My class doesn't use them, but I'm trying to think of what it was. But there was something else, I think, or some sort of other potion or some interaction besides the Trinket that works.
Oh, I guess Potion of Recklessness is like, it doesn't work like this, right? Where it's like your lowest or your highest stat gets doubled or whatever.
Oh, it doesn't? I thought it did somehow.
No.
Oh, okay.
Which I think
I must be thinking of something else.
I think that Blizzard is like likely to change this because I don't think it's intended, but I wish they wouldn't.
Yeah, it's super cool, but I mean, gearing is simple and understandable on purpose, which I don't even know if they're accomplishing that goal because it still feels like you have to sim your character to get the actual answer of what's best. But it does kind of feel like the way gearing works now, at least in Season 1 of the expansion, is, okay, these are my 2 stats. I want to get those 2 stats on every single piece on most characters, or most specs, I should say.
Yeah. Oh, I finished other videos this week, too. I finished a video about, like, Sepulcher, like a video documentary on Sepulcher. God. And then I finished my Zero to Hero, like, last or 2 weeks ago, maybe. Finished the script for that, so sent that off to get edited.
I do have to ask Tettles.
What's up?
How'd Lura go? I may have seen a clip.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. That was this week, wasn't it? So
Sure was.
I hadn't killed Lura yet until this week, and I think I did okay, but I do believe that I discovered a new mechanic on Lura that previously other people hadn't figured out as a potential way of dying. So after you do the galvanized beams and they shoot the planets, they start to pull the orbs back into the middle, which is indicated by this ground effect. Now, this ground effect can mean many things. The exact same ground effect is actually used to indicate that you need to soak the galvanize as it's coming out, many would say. But in this instance, the ball can run you over.
That's an understandable death. I was expecting much worse. I was ready for you to invent it. I mean, this is a Tettles death clip, let's be honest. I was expecting you inventing a new way to die. Oh, I invented a new way to deplete a key. I actually now hold the record for the world's fastest key deplete. So I breathed, like pre-breath for Augavoker, and I went out of the dungeon the exact frame that the key started. Because if you don't have your full party, so if you don't have your full party in the dungeon, it doesn't let you start the key, right? So you can't normally do that, but I zoned out frame perfect so that I was out of the dungeon, but it also didn't count me as part of the group that started the key, so I was locked and couldn't walk back in. And I frame 1 depleted the key. I'm pretty proud of that one.
How did you announce that to your party? Just like, hey guys, like, I'm not here.
I don't remember. I didn't expect to not be able to walk in.
That's when you just leave the group.
Basically, yeah, I said something about like, you know, oh no, I'm gonna be late on this first pull.
Alt F4, and then I just disconnect.
Hey guys, I'm lagging. Could you hear me? I got a really long load screen.
Okay. Other stuff. Okay, so I was planning on trying to come up with some more ideas, but I have some random questions about old episodes. So in the spirit of episode 100, I would like to take a trip down memory lane a little bit, where I have come up with the answers to some really, I would say, kind of strange questions about our old episode. So the first question that I have for you guys is, do you guys know what the episode with the most views is?
I'm trying to think. I feel like I don't know. I'm trying to think if there was a guest that could have gotten a lot of views, but I don't.
There was a guest on this episode. We'll say it like that.
Ooh. Oh, I think I know, actually. I think it was the episode with Evade. I think it was a improving at WoW with Evade, I think, is our most viewed episode.
Ding, ding, ding. The episode was episode 36, How to Get Good at Mythic Plus, with Evade. That has 83,000 views.
Damn.
That was really interesting. I remember at some point in the past looking at that and recognizing that episode did well. I remember thinking back to the Titan Forge podcast that you did with Dratnos and Trell that personally I enjoyed the strategy talk, but I felt like it would probably be too dense for most people. But maybe that is something to consider, is to make occasional strategy focused episodes instead of going, especially in a time like this where we're kind of going into the lull of waiting for the next patch.
Yeah.
Maybe having some more strategy focused thing. I mean, there's only so many concepts you can do that aren't class specific, but yeah, I think it's interesting that that's the most viewed.
Strategy in World of Warcraft is kind of interesting because I think a lot of people, whenever they discuss strategy in WoW, they discuss it from like a per patch perspective, right? You know, explaining the mechanics, teaching the bosses, but there's not a ton of very specific content about how do you, like, what are repeatable skills that are good from season to season? How do you learn how to be good? I think that's kind of an interesting one. Okay. Well, that might have been one of our best performing videos. What is one of our worst performing videos? So I have the episode with the worst like to dislike ratio. Do you guys know what episode this is?
It has to be like...
I think I also know this one, but I'll let Squishy guess.
I was gonna go something like Resilient Keys or something. Or actually, it might be like a Delve Mole Person episode or something like that.
The problem is I make all the episodes into Delve Mole People episodes or Resilient Key episodes. So I think the worst disliked or the most disliked episode is the one from the 0.5 patch in season 1 of War Within when the Molten Core raid, or not the Molten Core, sorry, was it Blackwing Lair? The anniversary time walking raid that was hard but didn't drop anything good, and and I had not done it, I think, and Tettles was talking about how great the raid was just because he had fun and had people to play with, but didn't mention the fact that it was miserable and pugs and gave nothing, and people did not like that opinion.
That is in fact the most disliked episode. Yes. Let me pull up the analytics on this sucker because this one was really bad. It has a 70% like to dislike ratio, which for context for viewers, I think our channel averages like a 93% like to dislike ratio, but this one had 30% was disliked on this episode. Where is the dislikes?
30% dislike is crazy.
Insane.
By the way,
I've never seen a video like that before.
Yeah. I am surprised. I was gonna guess it was at 85. To say that it's at 70 is crazy.
It was episode
Shout
14.
Out to all you guys.
Look at this shit. 70%.
Shout out to everybody if you've been listening that long and you dislike that video and you're still here. You know, we appreciate you.
What are the comments mad about?
It was BRD. That's what it was. It wasn't Blackwing.
Friends.
It was BRD.
Yeah, they were pissed about getting friends. You should change the name to the Elitist Podcast. What do they mean by that?
They're so mad that they type elitist wrong.
I thought whatever. All right. All right,
I think
question.
Hold on. This is a very pivotal episode for me, at least in thinking and understanding about WoW. And I know people now don't like the way that I talk about it still, but the importance of rewards, you know, like, you can't just take content for itself in an MMO. You have to consider every content that you do, you have to consider how it progresses your character and what you earn from it, because ultimately everybody in the community, especially the more casual players who don't just sit around the game all day full bis, are taking that into account. As you know, if you only have a certain amount of time to play, yeah, you're going to gravitate towards what you find fun, and you should do that. But ultimately, you don't want to do something that's providing zero reward, and it's just going to naturally turn people off when there's content like that.
I think any opinion. Okay, also World of Warcraft players have a tendency to do this thing where it's like there's a right opinion and the wrong opinion. If you don't have the same opinion as them, they just immediately will tell you that you're wrong, and then tell you that you're out of touch. Where I think as humans, maybe it's not the most maybe not the most constructive way of speaking to others, let's say.
L Tettles.
Well,
That's an
no,
L.
I mean, I think that,
No, I know what you mean.
Everybody has their own opinions, right? And I think that, especially as podcasters as well, like we're just here talking about our experiences with the game, but our experiences aren't the only experiences, right?
Yeah, I worry, and we've talked about this a lot off camera.
Yeah.
The idea that we're viewed as politicians or people that are trying to impact change on the game, when you get upset that we're in a bubble or whatever, it's like, yeah, what do you want me to do? Go on the podcast and then speak for what it's like for you to play like other people to play the game? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, of course I'm going to give the perspective of somebody that plays WoW for a living and all this stuff and takes the game very seriously because that's who I am. Like, you know, you can actually, one comments that I really liked was, I don't know if it was the most recent or the second most recent, where we talked about heroic rating and gear and stuff. And there was actually overwhelming amount of people that were commenting on their experience rating and how they feel about the system and, you know, how their guild functions. And it was actually awesome about being able to kind of get an idea and read about the average person who listens to the pod's experience and how they play the game. Not just in the sense of like, oh, I have 7 wives and 4 kids and I only have 14 minutes a day to play, but more like, you know, oh, I'm in a guild. These are the hours we raid. This is what we usually do when we're done raiding, blah, 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 right? Because that actually helps me a lot kind of understand the broader audience, or at least our podcast audience.
So Squishy, whenever he went to that Blizzard event in Toronto, and I would not be shocked if this is true whenever we go to BlizzCon, I would not be shocked if we get stopped by a bunch of people and they're like, I love the podcast, right? Where if you only read the comments, you would be like, oh my god, these people hate us.
People only comment on comments or Reddit when they're upset about something.
Dude.
The happy people are not going to comment.
I have never left. I very rarely leave reviews for anything. I am that person now. I definitely left a 1-star review on something recently. My cat got shaved at the groomer, and the groomer stopped halfway through and said my cat was growling at him. And I was pissed. And so I literally just took a picture of the cat, posted it on the website, and left it with a 1-star review.
That's so funny.
Oh,
I think the listeners will be angry too. How dare they?
Dude, look at
how dare they not give your cat a bad group?
Oh my fucking
so funny.
god!
I literally I was pissed. I shaved him myself. Hold on, let me get him. I had to shave him myself now. He said that he was growling at him. Let me just say, my cat was purring whenever I was shaving him. He had no problem. I think that this guy just didn't want to shave the mats out of my cat's fur.
That's crazy. I mean, I kind of like the little lion mane that your cat has going on there, though.
I know, right?
Look at my freshly shaved cat. I did the job myself.
Dude, it looks like he, you know, like that the jester's robe has that little like puffy thing around the collar. That's what it kind of looks like he has right now.
His face, like. Yeah, but yeah, no, I am one of those people now. I left a 1-star review on something I hated.
Hey, rightfully so. Sometimes you gotta leave a bad review. You gotta let the people know.
Damn, I have had a shitty week. Oh my god.
Poor Tettles. Everybody, this actually, everyone already wrote L take Tettles. Never mind. They've probably already written it and posted the comment before they even listened to the episode.
I will say, I know that most people are kidding. I find those comments fucking hilarious. And in the spirit of comments, do we know what the episode with the most comments is? I think the answer will surprise you guys.
I'm terrible at this, so Growl?
I don't know. This one I don't know because I'll usually check them in the morning just to get the initial viewer thing. I'm going to make a wild guess and I'm going to say the THD episode.
No, that one had 366 comments. This one has nearly double that. No, actually a little bit over double of that. It was about a system that was added back in 11.1.
Brazil.
Is that
11.1?
Oh, is that AUG? Sounds like AUG type. That's AUG.
No, 11.1 is
11
more
is
within.
more than.
I think it's result time.
I think it was 11.1.5 that was added.
Was it dinar? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happened. There was dinars, maybe. There was think that was around when Brazil got added.
That was around when Brazil was added as well. But this one was a little bit more specific. It was the title of the episode is the one button rotation bad for the game? 755 comments, a 93% like to dislike ratio, by the way. 93% compared to the 70% on the other one.
Oh, that's funny. I should have guessed that one about the 1% because that was exactly around that time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had a bunch of different takes about the one button rotation, and like I think it was also we were kind of fielding the question of who is this for? Is this actually going to be healthy for the game?
I think we had a good discussion on it. We presented like different points of view and stuff like that versus just slamming it all from the same position of like the other one.
I mean, I don't think we like the OBR just generally, and we disagree with what Blizzard has said about the one button rotation, but it's mostly out of concern that like if you didn't want to use the one button rotation, but yet you would get a significant amount of damage gained by using it, we don't want those people to feel like they should use it. But I feel like nobody's actually played the game like that. Like, you know, maybe some people have, but it's been widely not adopted.
Yeah, I think that was one. Well, so that's a little bit of what I'm wondering, because that was, I don't think I would interact with the people using the one button rotation regularly in content very often.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong. You know, again, I'm worried about, or I should say I was worried about the onboarding process and how people would feel encouraged to use it, but you don't really have a way out, right? Ultimately, you still have to either learn your rotation or just do that, and I think doing that should, in theory, would get boring. I do think that I was pretty much wrong in the sense that the community seemingly has handled it and used it exactly how the sort of vision for it is, right?
I agree.
Where the OBR exists if you don't give a shit about the spec you're playing and you're just like trying to do some content on it, and you're just, you know, like for instance, you're a healer and you're doing delves and you just switch to DPS spec and use the one button rotation instead of actually learning how to play it, right? Or you don't care and you're just leveling alts or whatever, and you know, that's for the most part how people have used it. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think that it's been used appropriately. I do still think there is concern about how powerful it is, especially if it begins to become more popular. I think about, you know, pings, the first patch that they were introduced were basically never used, and people were like, why did Blizzard even introduce pings? And now I feel like it's almost hard to play the game without pings, right? Pings are a fantastic asset. They are really easy, and I actually like the audio sensation of pings because it can kind of tell you where the ping is coming from, so you can turn your camera in a direction. Yep. I feel like pings were a fantastic ad, but whenever they were first introduced, nobody used them. Maybe the one button, I feel like the one button rotation is more of a slippery slope than it is an actual concern that Blizzard needs to act on currently. But
here's what I need you to do, Tettles.
What's up?
Your next 0 to hero, one button rotation.
I was considering that, but I don't think it would be that fun because I think I would just like absolutely smash the challenge pretty quickly, and I think it would take some fun out of it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I was also thinking about that and like trying to strategize it. I was thinking more of like getting 1% title with one button rotation. At that point, I'm doing a little bit to push the agenda that I want, though, right? Of creating content about how you can get the 1% title with the one button rotation. I have considered that. I do have to press go live though in order to create content, so that's been a good area for me lately.
That could actually be a good content idea for me next batch. Actually,
it's a good point.
I mean, the biggest thing is if it's that good, how do you know that people even playing with don't use it?
Well, it's not that good.
It's
right?
not that good, right? Like there's levels to this shit. I think that there's like some cognitive dissonance amongst WoW players where they believe that they're much better than they are. But like I think that the real thing is that the skill ceiling of World of Warcraft is just so unbelievably high, higher than a lot of people actually give it credit for. Where, you know, even if you watch the MDI, good teams versus the best teams, their players are just randomly doing 15% more damage than good players. And you're just like, how does that even happen? That's a little bit weird. Or Race World First guilds. There is basically, I wouldn't be shocked if, you know, 2 players per guild in the other top 10 guilds were able to actually compete in a Race World First caliber guild, which is ridiculous if you really think about just how much there is a step up between a top 10 guild, which is inarguably great players to a Race World First guild. And I think that there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance from the player base that where they think that they are versus what the skill ceiling is. There is a massive disparity between the two.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that with raiding because we've just been talking about that internally in our guild about that idea of not really padding, but in a moment where you should focus and just be willing to lose damage, not doing that, right? I always kind of saw it as, okay, this is malicious. Like, this is somebody who's just greeding and they know that they probably can't make it, but they just do it anyway. But the more that I think about it, I was kind of talked into the idea that it's not really greed, but it's more so overestimating your ability, right? Like not having a plan and just sort of expecting yourself to have the player skill to handle the mechanic while you're focusing on your rotation mentally. I think that's the major difference in thinking is I don't really think I'm better than any of the people that are, around my guild or M+ level that I play with. But I feel like I know my limitation, and when there's an important moment that is going to affect the raid, I just say, okay, I'm willing to lose my damage and not even think about it and just walk my character there, where I think most people, they're not maliciously saying, oh, I'm going to maybe wipe the raid. They just trust themselves way more than I do.
I think it's one of those things that's really apparent. The moment that you start playing with people who are like, I'll just use this term, like one standard deviation above you, and they're just doing things way better, you're just like, holy shit, I kind of suck, right? But you actually need to experience those players before you realize that there is more to the game than you are putting in effort-wise. And I think that for a lot of people, you end up at a certain level, and then you surround yourself with people, and whether it be your guild or your Mythic Plus group, who are probably about the same level as you, right? And so you don't realize, you're not super frequently introduced to people who are like one rung of the ladder up, or multiple rungs of the ladder up, and then you're like, oh wow, that's crazy. You experience somebody, you're like, wow, I'm getting. You're like, I feel like I'm fucking carried here. Hold on, these people are boosting me.
But realistically, I don't think there's any problem with them adding to get the game. Like honestly,
no, I think
fine. So far it's been good.
I think if it works out exactly like this in the future, I think it's fine. I still think it's a little bit of a slippery slope.
My biggest complaint with it is just that I wish. I don't want to say rotations are simple enough because I think rotations are at a good spot right now, but I feel like the one button rotation has always existed in games, right? It's called button mashing. And it's just weird that in this game, button mashing gives you like 5% of your max output, right? Whereas in most other games, like, yeah, you're not going to do good with it, but you'll at least get like half or whatever, right? If you're spamming Frostbolt the whole time.
Yeah. Maybe good.
Wow, Growl, you're so elitist. I can't believe it.
No, I think it's a well-balanced take. I mean, like, button mashing is pretty dog shit and WoW, but
okay, too many buttons.
So our average episode length so far, so hats off to us, it was 1 hour 49 minutes and 40 seconds for a total of 180 hours and 57 minutes of content over the first 99 episodes. The fact that we were averaging near 2 hours of content a week is unbelievable. And we've procced some bonus episodes where, do you guys have a guess of what the longest episode was and how long it was? Or do you guys remember maybe what the longest episode was?
I want to say, there's no way it was over 2:30. I feel like we would have cut that short.
It was over 2:30.
Really?
It was I would describe it as a teaching episode, but it was not the Evade episode.
Yeah, I do remember one where we had a guest and things went well, and it went to like 240-ish, I think, or 250.
It was a guestless episode, surprisingly enough.
Oh, it was a guest list episode.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Was it? It has to be Mythic Plus based. Like how to list your own keystone, like climb the ranks or something like that. That's
Did we do one where it was like going through all the dungeons for an expansion or a season or something, and then going like down or whatever for each thing? I think that sounds.
We did do that. But that is not the longest one.
That is not.
It has to do something with like discussing ways to improve or something very similar to the Evade, but just different.
Jumping into Mythic Rating, episode 46 of the bench. 2 hours and 36 minutes and 26 seconds.
Oh, 236. Okay.
Yeah, where we talked about joining Mythic Raiding Guilds, trial culture, so like how much. This was the one that I think it was the almost like a review of like Shindig's video, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. When I look at the episode, I think a lot of Shindig, but we did talk to him.
Yes, we
but it wasn't that episode.
It wasn't his episode, but it was inspired by his content. Let's say.
Yeah, we practiced 13-minute MDI discussion there, though. That was the reason.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That was not the dorky MDI. Which I'm surprised was not the most disliked video. I'm gonna be completely honest. What was that one? Oh my god, that one was only 85%.
Yeah, it's weird. Most of our most downvoted videos are actually from Tettles' bad takes. I would have expected it's just me making people mad, but that one was also a Tettles one where he was defending the ruling, and people were not happy about that.
Maybe I'm just.
There's also the add-on one where people hated our take on add-ons. It's like, it's gonna be great, guys. We can't wait for add-ons to be gone. Like,
was that the WoW 2 one?
I think so. Oh
dude,
man,
people got apparently really pissed about this one titled WoW is coming to console.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Maybe just a poorly. Oh, dude, the WoW 2 one didn't even. WoW 2 announced. That was the add-on one. That one only had. That was fine. And the add-on one that was right after that was also 80. I don't know. That one was fine.
The add-on episode.
Okay, the shortest episode was actually episode 17, which, unsurprising, it was a bonus proc episode that we recorded on a Thursday, which was titled 11.1 Preview and the Motherlode Returns at 52 minutes.
Yeah, that was when the it was announced that we had the new season rotation and like a bunch of other stuff coming in the Undermine patch. And so we procced the bonus emergency episode.
Yeah, I think that was one, if I remember, where the Tuesday episode was quite short and there wasn't a lot to talk about anyway. And then the stuff came out a few days later about the next season, and we're like, well, we got to talk about this now. The people want to hear about it.
Was that how that went down? I thought for some reason that one had the interview near it too, but maybe that's not true.
Oh, maybe. There was some weird moving around with the interview that we did too.
What episode number was this? Episode 17? No. Okay. Yeah, never mind.
The interview one was weird. I think that was a tough one because it was themed around the patch, but it was essentially like everything in that patch was sort of already known, kind of.
Yeah.
And then we want to ask deeper shit about system changes and stuff, but we couldn't really do that because it wasn't that expansion yet. Yes. I don't know. All I remember is I got tricked into asking a stupid question on that episode, and I hated that. And then I said, cut it out, and you didn't cut it out.
I didn't forget about that. I forgot to cut it out, okay? That was my bad. Okay, so that was the random questions that I have dredged up from old episodes.
It was good.
Dude, I wish I could have figured out a way to find the most upvoted comment of all time, but I could not figure out a way to do it.
Oh shit!
That'd have been funny.
It would have just been something about. It would have been another anti-Tettles comment, probably.
It would probably just been something simple like Tettles L.
Yep. I mean, those are great comments.
Okay. So other stuff that we've had this week, because it couldn't be our 100th episode anniversary without talking about World of Warcraft solo queue for Mythic Plus. Wow, what a good content stream. I feel like this is like a recession indicator. Whenever content's at an all-time low in World of Warcraft, what do people start complaining about on Twitter? Well, last patch it was add-ons and the add-on apocalypse, and now we're back to complaining about random shit, and this time it's solo queue. Wow.
Yeah, the solo queue thing always comes up.
Yeah.
It's an interesting discussion. I don't know. There's been a lot of stuff on Twitter. One thing, I remember some talks about, maybe it was just a Blizzard survey, but I remember some talks about not necessarily solo queue, but like ideas about things that might change with the way that you form groups. Maybe it was entirely solo queue and then nothing kind of ever happened. Maybe they got preoccupied by the add-on change to ever do something like that. I actually think that thinking about solo queue and working through how they could improve the LFG system is actually pretty interesting, because I feel like it is one of the biggest barriers to playing the game. I guess I think The biggest issue that I had, so trying to think about how solo queue will work, I want to pose a question to you guys. So I think there's two. I'm trying to basically like, what would solo queue mean, right? Because first you have to like figure out, okay, what exactly is solo queue. And the first thing I said is like, well, it has to get a majority of people to play it, right? If a lot of people don't play it, then the queue times are going to be shit and it defeats the purpose.
Yeah. Yes.
Then the next thing is you want to be able to progress your character in solo queue. I think, right? It's possible that they do. I think the most likely thing they would do is make like a weekly key simulator.
I think before we start this, let's I think maybe we just go through the tweets that have kind of sparked the discussion related towards solo queue, and then we start to build a solo queue that we think we're basing off of what basically people have been saying. So this was, I think, the tweet that actually sparked the conversation. This was at least the first time I saw it mentioned in this cycle. Not that I haven't seen it mentioned before. It's definitely, like Growl said, I think a survey tipped it off last time. This guy, he's a rogue main, and he pushes pretty high keys. French rogue player, and he spams all caps, introduce Mythic Plus solo queue, please, 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 please. I think that this is based off the fact that he is a rogue main who is struggling to find groups and compositions that want to play with him. Just point blank, I think that it is understandably pretty hard to try to find and get people to play with a rogue in 22s and 23s. Then this was the follow-up tweet that I saw where this person said, I don't care what anyone says. I will always want a solo queue for Mythic Plus. Sometimes you just get home after a busy day and want to knock out some keys, mainly vault keys, but don't want to sit in LFG forever or figure out a group with friends. Just queue me up, Scotty, let's go. Which I think that both of these two players are almost divided in terms of what they want. Because this guy said, if you don't want it, you're a meta slave or afraid of competition, or you think it will kill the social aspect, but it's already dead. We're not in 2010 anymore. Which we'll talk about in a second. But these two players are both for solo queue, but for completely different reasons. Then I saw this insane tweet by Humanity, the first good Humanity tweet of all time, where he said, list your own key, invite the first 4 people that sign up. That's called solo queue Mythic Plus. People really out here thinking if Blizzard added a solo queue, they will hit queue and match with Yoda or Andy Brew, and they will carry their run. Delulu Max, just because you want to be picky in LFG? Bro, just list your damn key and invite 4 randos. That literally is solo queue, but with shorter queue times. Which... interesting take. And then I saw this take by Felrin. He says, list your own key, add people after a good run, make connections. This is my first season really pushing, and I have people from LFG asking me if I need 20s, and in some cases even 21s, not even including the people who've known me from Twitter, just pure randoms. Shadow Priest player, by the way. So I think we're seeing people on both sides of the aisle discussing whether or not they would like solo queue, or would in some instances hate solo queue.
Yeah, so I think the idea of a weekly key simulator of being able to queue up for 12s, which was what Wizardry was sort of asking, I think is their most likely path that they would do, right? There would be some sort of requirement, either a score requirement or an item level, or very likely both. And then you would just queue into only 12s, get put into a random 12 with everybody, and then be able to do that for weeklies or for gear farming or whatever. And I think I don't really have a lot against that system, and I think that may benefit a lot of people, and people might like that. I don't know how would it affect queue times, but I think that's less interesting to think about than the idea of a thing where you can do keys higher than 12, right?
Yeah, my thought, and I know I've told Tettles, I've probably said on the podcast before, solo queue would work for trivial content.
Correct.
It would work great. If I want to right now, like just do a 10 from a weekly vault, I would love that. It just, queue for it, or, instead of doing a delve when I want to play WoW, I just log on and queue into a Mythic Plus dungeon.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I'm very, very happy with that.
So some of the points Wizardry says here, but it's an MMO, you're supposed to be social. And she says, yeah, I sure don't disagree, but I think a lot of people are chasing MMO nostalgia that doesn't fully exist anymore with the social aspect. And we have very little time, and free time coordinated group of 5 are getting declined for 30 minutes in LFG is complete cancer. But Felrin had the opposite opinion, where he said it's an MMORPG, you need to stop being afraid and just send it. Join guilds even dedicated to Mythic Plus, and maybe they clear some of the raid for the sake of keys. I know that there's been some that are just built for kind of clearing the easy bosses and then just doing Mythic Plus. I also built up my network for PvP during Dragonflight and still queue with many of them to this day. One person and suddenly you get introduced to other connections, so now you know more. I send my own keys with friends and guildies that have very little experience, but they're good players, so I can invest in them. And guess what? That's even more connections. But I I do tend to agree with you, Squishy. I think that solo queue works best for maybe something that Wizardries is talking about for trivial content. The problem is, what is trivial content in World of Warcraft? Because I think that the word trivial is different for different people, right? LFR is almost objectively trivial content where they're giving you determination stacks. It's built for, you know, it has an item level requirement, and then you zone in and the boss kind of kills itself, right? But that's
it's built in a way such that you're not expected to fail.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there are mechanics and damage, right? But realistically, you're not supposed to fail that. And I believe, I'm not 100%, but I think they've gone on record saying that they don't want to create queues for content that's not close to guaranteed success.
Yes.
So, like, other games, you know, I've played Lost Ark, Growl's played Lost Ark, Destiny, very similar. A lot of these places have matchmaking and also a like LFG system, because regardless if you take away LFG in game or not for a full solo queue, people are just going to group up naturally. And when the content has a chance of you failing, people are always going to default to making a set group.
All right.
Unless the content is that trivial and it is purely for homework, yeah.
I have an interesting thought experiment, because I think that all three of us are pretty anti-solo queue, just generally. I think that Growl should come up with the best version of solo queue for World of Warcraft, and then Squishy, you and I should take different positions on pro and anti-solo queue, and if you're anti-solo queue, you try to poke holes in the system and talk about why it could work, and if you're pro solo queue, you talk about the advantages. Which position do you want to take, real quick?
Let's see what Growl proposes, because maybe we feel about it depending on the way Growl. Growl
sure.
says.
All right, Growl, are you good to come up with the system here? Because I think that's where you almost were trying to start.
Sure, I'll try and walk you through briefly my thought process. So I think in order to make an interesting solo queue, the question of, like, you need to be able to progress your score, right? It's not just a weekly 12 key simulator, so there is some progression of score. Then the very interesting question is, should you be, like, it doesn't have to be the current score, right? Should you lose score? Because in theory, they could work it out such a way that you are, because let's say you can never lose score and you're using the current system, you're just going to slam into keys and then deplete it on the first pull over and over and over again until you get a good group. And people are, I don't know how the lever system would work, but there's a lot of interesting questions about that, right? So I think my personal opinion is, I think the best system would actually be a system where you lose score. And I think that people would butt against that and hate that, and that wouldn't be what they want. But ultimately, it would be a system where you just go into keys and it tests your ability whether or not you can do a key with a random group and what your success rate is. And then the higher your score gets, there are thresholds and you keep moving up key levels that way. That would be a system where it's not like, it's very different from the current system, right? Where it's not like, okay, you need to do a 20 nexus point. You do that over and over and over. And then, okay, now I do a 21 over and over and over. I really liked Fellowship, but that part of Fellowship, that progression, it didn't vibe with me. Okay. And I think a lot of people, as soon as the like top level dropped off or whatever, and the gearing dropped off, they kind of got bored and quit. So my solo queue system would be, it would put you in a key. It would not be your highest key ever, and it would be a completely separate score system. And then you're just judged for what your win rate is in that key. And if you have a success rate of, you could even do 50%, right? Like, you need to maintain a 50% success rate of timing the keys. And then if that is the case, then you move up. So, like, realistically, you could be capable of doing like a 20 or a 21, but
you could have maybe like a promotional like level, right? Where kind of similar to like a League of Legends or something like that, where once your success rate is high enough, then you start to like if you time 3 of the next 5 keys or something like that, you promote to the next key level.
Yeah, that I would have to work out and figure out. Sure. Really, that's all about optics.
There's some way of moving up and down, and a loose MMR system is what you're referring to, right?
Right. So it's basically it maintains Mythic Plus. It doesn't I'm trying to discriminate against what spec you are. It just puts you in based off your role. Maybe there are some loose rules like every team needs to have a Bloodlust and one of every Dispel needs to be present or whatever they decide those, but they don't want to put you in a situation where, no
double specs maybe.
Yeah, no double specs or even no double classes maybe.
I feel like that's maybe a little bit much, but maybe, yeah.
Might be hard. That's sort of so you're basically maintaining the same thing, and that also fixes the resil problem of, okay, you're just ramming your head against the wall, because if you're engaging with the Mythic Plus system, you're going through the whole dungeon most of the time, and that way you're not just doing the first pull over and over again, and maybe potentially some other sort of sliding scale with the rating and the timer too, right? Like right now it's really linear.
So you either have to complete the dungeon, no abandoning?
Maybe. I don't know exactly how that would work. I think you would get an abandoned vote, but maybe some sort of system where the rating changes more or less, like more integral with the timer, if that makes sense. So like, let's say you deplete a key by 3. I see this. I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that because that changes.
I feel like I'm maybe out on that specifically, but I see where you're coming from with that.
But you see where I'm going.
You're kind of removing the timer by the way you're talking.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, it is the timer. I don't know how I feel about this because on one hand, I feel like. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, instead of a countdown timer, you do a count up timer, and that is your elo. Like, par is 31 minutes.
I mean, now we're talking about a completely different game mode. Are we not?
I completely agree. But,
right. Well,
I mean, it's similar, just presented in a different way.
How do you try to keep the authenticity of Mythic Plus? I think is kind of...
Okay, let's be honest here. 3 chests and 2 chests mean shit anymore. It doesn't... 3 chests means nothing, right? Like, it's a fragment from when it originally came out. That literally means nothing to the player base.
I think timed and okay, I'm down to go to timed and untimed keys. I don't think we need the fucking 2 chests and 3 chests. Like, I'm in on that, and like I think that you probably should get some sliding scale of additional MMR points if you time it faster versus slower. But I think that the counting up thing seems weird because you're almost removing the problem of like. I think that there should be like. You failed the dungeon, right? Like, you failed the dungeon because you weren't fast enough.
I do think the idea of a specific timer and thinking about that timer and making, decisions based off of that is a pretty important part of Mythic Plus. Okay. Like, okay, we only have this amount of time, therefore we need to do this. But, yeah, so I've kind of thought about this, and I think the system of you just solo queue... Before you, I guess you guys can think about what side you'd want to pick, but the idea of you just solo queue into a team, I think will not work. With the current system, basically. And the reason is because I think it's really, really bad for tanks. So right now, the biggest benefit of playing tanks is you have the lion's share of the picking, right? You get to pick the most qualified players, whatever group you want, whatever dungeon you want. Yeah. Not all the time, obviously, but relative to that. Also, it makes routing very difficult because as a tank, you can say, hey, we need to have Mind Soothe for this dungeon, or I want to do a Shroud skip, or I want to do this, right? But if you're a tank and you're thrown into a dungeon with the expectation of like, okay, now you need to cook up a route that may not have the tools that you need.
You're the arbiter of this system. You're hold on, you're helping the person who's arguing.
Yeah, you're Blizzard right now.
Yeah, you're Blizzard.
Okay, fair enough.
What are you doing are you putting in protections for tanks?
Tell
me about what happens with the current LFG system. Do we keep it? Does it go away?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I will say, so this is just a thought experiment for the people who are listening right now. There's kind of a problem if there is a solo queue that is added to the game where it fragments the player base out of LFG and into the solo queue, right? where
I will be dead honest. That will never happen in a PvE game mode. It will just not flat out not happen.
What do you mean?
Like PvP, it will happen in a PvE game mode where it is things are difficult. Like, okay, let's say they came out with solo queue right now, Tettles, for 23s. Are you random queuing or are you LFGing it?
Well, I'm fucking LFGing here. I want to make informed decisions on who
Why
I'm
would
inviting.
anybody ever press the matchmaking button? Ever? Who is going to press the matchmaking button?
Yes, I think that this is that's why
I'll be honest.
That's why I posed the question to Growl: are you keeping the current LFG system? Or are you? So the problem with the solo queue specifically is if 100% of the player base is not opt in, you are now elongating the wait time to get into a group for both segments of the player base, which I think is worse for all players involved. But Growl's the arbiter here. I'm just
yeah.
Well, so the biggest problem with wait time is not, you can look at it as a full system and average the wait time, but really the problem with wait time leads to being able to cut the line, right? So for example, if you're a tank, you cut the line because you play a role that is needed, but that's fine and that still exists. But now if you are Tettles on an alt, right? Everyone sees, okay, he has a higher IO score on an alt, and you can cut the line getting into a queue over people that have been waiting longer than you because, right? And that key holder and the tank, therefore, in that group want the highest success rate that they could possibly have, right? So for some people, not necessarily, like, it's always worded as like meta specs, right? But I don't think it's so much it's not just meta specs that get to cut the line, right? It's people that are overqualified that want to practice. It's people that want to help their friend. It's people that are farming an item. It's people that, have higher score on an alt. And all this like basically all of the queue time will go away from the people cutting the line into just averaging out across the pool, right? Because it basically will not allow you to cut the line. And I'm not sure how I feel about that. And I feel like most people who say they want solo queue are people that cannot use that feature to cut the line, right? These are people who do not have a Tettles level and do not play a meta spec.
It's not meta DPS. Those are the people that are like, I would rather it be first come, first serve as opposed to being able to cut the line. But, there is a severe scarcity of tanks and tanks and healers. So they're going to get matched almost immediately regardless. And the only people that are going to get negatively affected here are meta DPS maybe, but
I mean the question again comes down to Growl is, what are you doing with LFG here?
Yeah, what are you doing with LFG?
If you were to, I think inherently if you created a brand new rating system, one of the game modes would just be dead. Because no one would care about it.
We'll delete LFG for the purposes of this argument because I think it makes it easier to understand.
So you have to solo queue only.
Well,
no groups, just solo queue.
Okay, can you queue with your friends?
No. Here's what I would say, right? Okay. You can do LFG, but this is not the same rating, right? This is a queued rating, and then that has no effect on your other rating. Think of it as a ranked and unranked thing. So by
that's the achievements.
Well, exactly, right? In theory, it would be one of them just dies. Like, it would still exist, but nobody would use it. So the hope would be that if you are a supporter of solo queue, that LFG and pre-mades would die. People might do them if they wanted to, but the attention of where people want to spend their time is on the solo queue. Okay. But it's not to say that you can't go into a group of a dungeon, but nobody would care about your points, essentially.
So achievements get locked behind solo queue score, hopefully to eradicate LFG. Is that the best way of describing it?
Well, it wouldn't. Well, they wouldn't be shared.
Described to eradicate.
Well, no, because it wouldn't be shared, right? So you could still say, okay, have a 1%, have a different 1% title and whatever for both systems.
Different achievements.
But in theory, yeah, and you might say, oh, people care about the mount reward or whatever, and they do the other one. But I realistically think the community will just decide what matters, and then they'll do that. And you know what I mean?
How do you get gear? Hypothetically, a lot of people farm 10s or 12s for weeklies, and they farm specific dungeons to try to get the Heart of Wind. What does that look like for a solo queue, or is that going to be reserved for LFG and hard queued keys only?
Gear would be however you decide to put the system in. It would basically not care about your gear whatsoever when you queue.
Oh, like you're scaled?
Oh.
No. The gear still drops. Like, imagine this is without changing the gearing system at all. So the way the system would work would be either it only exists past 12s, and so 13 and beyond basically are the key levels.
Okay, let me type that. Yeah, only...
Basically what I'm saying is the matchmaking doesn't look at your gear. The matchmaking doesn't look at your gear. It simply just looks at your rating and how much you're winning or losing the dungeons, and then puts you into the appropriate...
I'm talking about, like, if you wanted to utilize it to farm 10s for weeklies, is this a system that you can utilize to farm lower level dungeons? Or is this only something that is for score? You said this is only for 12s and up, right?
It could be the case that you have a system where it's you queue for a 12, like you give someone the ability to queue for exactly only a 12.
This isn't what Wizardries wants. She almost wants the opposite, right? Where she only wants the trivial keys to be queued for. But it's also not what Instab wants, where he wants it only for high keys.
Well, so the whole system exists only for people that want to do keys above 12.
Okay,
for people who do keys,
right?
Yeah, people who do keys 12 or below, like this, there's no point to this system, right? You could literally just put in a matchmaker for 12s, and it just throws you with random people, and then that would be what they would want, right? But the point of this system is how do we build a system to go beyond 12s?
Okay.
So, like, in theory, you could have a 12 queuer also with this, but it's not,
not what we're talking about specifically here.
Okay. Right, yeah.
So there's no changes to the current gearing system. You would probably go through LFG if you wanted to do weekly keys, right?
Yeah, or there's just a 12 queuer in here, right? If you're at a sufficient rating, which would be like quite low, right? Where you're queuing into either 12s or higher, then you can just hit a checkbox that says only send me into a 12. And then it just matches you up with people who are either at that rating or other people who
How do you feel about 11s and 9s that are dead?
Let me ask you a question here. Before we continue. Who is this for? What is the ultimate goal here?
This is for everybody.
The goal here is to create a system for basically M+ has changed from a progression path of you go from +2s and you work your way up to 12s from most people to, okay, you just farm 12s, right? Like that's kind of how it feels right now. Like I would imagine a lot of the lower keys are pretty dead. I'm not saying nobody is there, but realistically, you're only there to gear up and then to get to higher stuff. You're not doing it for the sake of itself. And so this is basically a system of, okay, this is Mythic Plus now. You can still do 12s to get gear. And then if you want to play Mythic Plus and improve your dungeon score or play with your friends or interact with the game, this is the way it works.
Okay. But again, why? Like, what is the change from because the exact same thing you described of improving your dungeon score and stuff like that, we can do that currently. So why?
It's to remove the people that are able to cut the line and instead to serve the population of the player base that wants the first come first served attitude.
Got it. Okay, that is the criteria that we're looking for here. That I wanted to make sure that is the thing that we are judging on.
That is correct. Yes.
The idea is that it would, in theory, improve queue times on average because you're matching everybody up in a way and you're getting them to play the game instead of we did a key, we depleted, kick them out. Okay. You are in the keystone for a majority of your playing session.
I'm just trying to figure out what we're going off of here.
Queuing with your friends, is that something that we're keeping or is it removed?
Yeah, this is a really hard one that I haven't thought out yet. And this is basically why I came to the conclusion of I think Blizzard will never do this, because after a lot of iteration and thinking about this, I have no idea about some of these fringe situations. Queuing with your friend has to exist. There's no way that queuing with your friend can't exist.
How many people are you allowed to queue with? What's the max? 2?
I guess in that case, you can still queue as a 5-stack if you wanted to.
Really? But that's not solo queue.
That's not solo queue.
That's not solo queue.
Well, it's not solo queue.
Then you're just going to go LFG. All right, who wants to go for a 5-stack? And we skip the line anyways.
And then we still get our solo queue points for not playing in solo queue.
The whole purpose.
And we picked our comp. And now you have people that are not opting into the LFG, not opting into the system.
So you have 2 ratings. You have a party rating and a solo queue rating.
Okay.
I mean, that's how you'd have to do it, right?
Okay.
Why don't we just have a 2s rating?
Solo
a
rating.
3s rating? A 5s
rating? No, I think the way that it would have to work would be there. And if we're going this deep, then I think we just have to delete LFG. But
okay,
okay. So we're deleting LFG, I think, at this point. And I think the way it works is you have a party rating and a solo rating, and that's essentially the 2 leaderboards, right? There's a leaderboard of people that are 100% only solo queue for the people that want that, and then for the people that just want to do keys with friends and have a leaderboard, there's also that.
Okay.
I mean, that's how it exists in game. I don't know how League works, but that's how it worked in Dota, and it seems
that's how it works in League too. There's flex.
Yeah.
There's flex queue and there's solo queue. Solo queue allows you to duo queue with people, but nothing more than just 2. And there's also like a level, like Masters Plus. You're not allowed to duo queue anymore. And then flex queue is like you can play as many people as you want.
Yeah, I don't like all the rules and stuff, like, oh, you can't queue as 4 and get 1 and blah, blah, blah.
Nobody takes flex queue seriously in League.
Yeah, that's essentially how it was in Dota, which is funny, right?
Yeah. Okay, so the other question.
Okay.
Tettles is 2,500 rating, and I decided to suddenly start pushing
50,
keys.
Please be serious.
I was going to say like 600 for me. Like, you're at a good score. Don't worry. You're 2,500 rating in this new system. I'm 600. Can we play together? What does that put us at? Like, where are we queuing into? Is Tettles being brought down to my, like, 5s? Because I haven't just pushed them?
Like what?
Am I getting carried and boosted to Tettles?
Probably like what, 100 rating? Maybe like 80 rating, which is like 1 key level. Like
okay, let's use real things. So you're like 4,000.
Yeah. You can't queue with somebody who's 80 rating lower than you or higher than you.
It's a good question, because if you have one, I guess they would just have to try and math it out such that it calculates what a fair success rate is, right? I mean, it's sort of the same for Dota or League.
So
right?
average is what you're saying.
Well, it's not average though. Like it's more complicated than that, because in theory, if you let's say you have somebody who's really good and then somebody who's really bad. In theory, the really good, they should do better than the middle ground of them, because a really good player can carry a really bad player. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's not actually the average of the 2 rating. There's some calculation that you have to figure out to find what level they go into. And that's why flex queue or party queue is annoying and complicated. And they would have to just find some means of okay, this is a fair key level. There may be some sort of cap where 2 people can't queue together, if that makes sense, just because they would get into so wildly, let's say you have someone who is progging on 12s versus queuing with Dorky. I don't know how they would find a key for that group.
I would say 80 score, which is 1 full key level. It should not exceed 1 full key level worth of difference, but maybe
I think they could go a little more. I was sort of thinking 3 or 4 even, because let's say you're looking at
that is a big disparity.
Yeah, well, it's big, but it's not that big, right? Let's say somebody's doing a 21 and somebody's doing a 17.
Dude, an 18 versus a 22? What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's great. Like, there's a reason that the party queue would be a bit of a mess, but ultimately it would have to be, right? Like,
yeah, sure.
Here's the thing, though. Again, you're envisioning the current system of, do you have what it takes to time a 22, which is different from the fundamental question of, will you time the key that you're put in 50% of the time or more, right? Because, like, realistically, you're not going to be on these fringe, really difficult keys. You're actually going to be in keys that are quite reasonable for your skill level. Because think about it, if you're timing 50% of your keys, that is, like, far different from the current world that we live in.
Okay.
All this sounds to me like it's fucking complex as shit. I have no idea what's going on anytime. Like, we have all these weird things that we're just trying to make up to solve random problems. And now there's an MMR system, which is a black box.
80% of the way through, we go, because, okay, we have to delete LFG.
Well, delete LFG because you just queue as 5 people.
Because you have to delete LFG. Yes, you do it because you have to.
Well, like, no. Well, technically, no. What you're doing is you're deleting the old key system. So there are no keys. And if you want to play Mythic Plus with 5 people, you just put them all in a party and you just press Q, and it puts you in an appropriate key level.
Sure.
It doesn't. And again, what I'm saying is that an appropriate key level is not, oh, you did every 20 one single time, that means you're timed to do 21s. An appropriate key level means like 50% of the time you're going to time this key. So and ideally you improve and you play better, and then you improve your rating and you do it. You prove to the system that your rate is actually higher than 50. It's like a pseudo. It's like a pseudo matchmaking, right? Where it is like you're playing against a person and you have to win more than you lose, except for it's not. It's PvE.
I think all this exercise has shown for me is solo queue. Everybody wants solo queue to be something different. Some people want it for endgame and pushing. Some people want it to have a fair queue system. Some people want it just to do their trivial keys and do it quicker. Like, everybody has such a different avenue of what solo queue is. And therefore, even if Blizzard was like, yeah, we're going to do a solo queue, it's going to only work for like a third of the population and no one else, if that.
Yeah.
Sort of. I think that if you go down a lot of other routes for what people want, it's either not solo queue at all, right? Or it's just undeniably that it won't work. Like, for example, a lot of people are saying they want solo queue, but really what they're saying is they want keys to go away. They just want to be able to walk into any dungeon and go into whatever key they want that's score for them. Like, if they have all-time 20s, then they should be able to go into any dungeon at 21 and just do the dungeon without the key system. Which
the way.
All right, go ahead.
I think people are treating solo queue as some miracle cure that doesn't exist. Because why is this rogue saying that he wants to, solo queue into 22s? What is the goal here? Like, why does this happen?
Because he hates getting declined from fucking keys in LFG. Because he's 100 rating and very, very good.
Do you know that for sure?
I mean, I can make
I assume it's probably correct.
I mean, he says, if you don't want it, you're a meta slave or afraid of competition, or you think it will kill the social aspect, but it's already dead. We're not in 2010 anymore. I mean, I guess I'm making a logical assertion here that the reason that he doesn't want it is because he's getting declined. He is also concocted compositions.
How are we going from?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, how are we going from the meta is too rigid to solo queue will fix it? Like, where's the logical leap there? That's what I'm trying to ask right now.
I think he thinks that he's getting declined from groups that he otherwise should be qualified for, and he should have been invited to. But the fact that he didn't get invited to those groups makes him hate the system.
Well, because essentially, let's say there are 50 DPS that are in queue waiting, right? And then he waits in line, and all 49 of those DPS get into groups. Then, in theory, he should be able to get into the next group. But the way it works is assuming that everybody is inviting Unholy DK and DH, every time an Unholy DK or DH shows up in LFG, they're cutting the line ahead of him and getting invited before he does, right?
Yes.
So the DK's queue time is much shorter, and his queue time is much, much longer. So, like, while it's true that I actually think an interesting thing is people are so unwilling to do homework keys now because of the way, like, Resilient, I don't think fixed the problem at all for anybody who's pushing their limits of keys. Now I almost feel like it's a shortage of keys in LFG. Like, people are so unwilling to push up their own key and make their own group. Because in theory, if this existed such that you were gate kept by people and you couldn't get into keys, the answer to that problem is, okay, just push your own key, right?
I still don't think that answered the main question, though, of why did we go to solo queue as the solution for people meta-slaving so much? Where
it's
did
not that people are
from?
meta-slaving. It's because they can't get into the keys because everyone only wants to play with other meta specs.
Okay. So why is that the solution and not have better class balance? Tune class better, make...
The community just follows what the top teams do, and
Blizzard is not going to be able to tune classes to a sufficient enough level to create a healthy and diverse metagame. I would say that this metagame is actually pretty decent right now, where there's two kind of pretty good compositions. There's Fizz comp, and then there's the Demon Hunter DK Augevoker comp. But like, even with two basically almost distinct metas in terms of like what compositions are good, it's still not enough. Right, there's still people that are boxed out.
Okay,
I think even if balance was perfect, people would still gravitate towards the same spec.
I agree with that for what it's worth. The more the question is, what is more likely here? Is Blizzard going to make a solo queue that works, or balance their classes better? Both seem very slim. I was going to say,
flip a coin with 0 sides, and then we'll determine.
So, like, I think people are treating solo queue as the grass is always greener, and not realizing how many additional problems adding a solo queue would add.
I agree with you, and I think that most people do see it as they want a button that they can press, and they press the button, and then in some fair amount of time in their head, they get put into a key, and those people have to stay with them and do the key, and that key has to have a good success rate and not be miserable, and I think that like, what you're saying essentially in this exercise that we're going through is there is a lot of shit to consider to make that happen.
Yeah.
And especially for keys that are score for you. That is my argument, is you basically have to redesign the whole system of what score means. Because you look at that rogue, for example, right? I think he had mostly time 22s and some 21s.
Yeah, he's higher score than me. He's like 4,100. He's like resilient 22
He can get into keys, but the issue is the keys that he can get into are not score for him, right? In order to gain score and progress your character in the system, you have to do a key that you've never done before. And when that is the case, people only want to invite or bring in the people, right? But if you have a solo queue system and you can gain score from every single key potentially that you do, then it's like, okay, there's no... you just, any, whatever class is equal. An interesting thought I had when you were talking about, the gatekeeping thing or whatever. Let's just say hypothetically that my system worked and it was the way the game worked. Do you think the top would still be driven by the same specs, like the meta? Or do you think we would see a way, way more diverse group of specs at the top of the specifically solo queue ladder?
I think, this is my personal opinion, I think you would still see the exact same specs.
That's kind of what I was thinking might be the case too.
I have a feeling that, especially if there's protections for no dupes, that kind of thing, you are just going to queue as either Devourer, Aug, or Unholy DK, and you will get matched with the other two. And if you don't get matched with that, at the highest level. And if you don't get matched with that comp, you'll leave and wait out the leaver penalty for however long it is.
Yeah, I didn't talk much about the lever penalty, but I do think in my system you would have to enforce it. I don't mind having an abandon vote and maybe even one that's active right away, but I do think that you have to heavily enforce the lever penalty in the system to make it so.
Okay.
I don't know how exactly it would work, though.
Okay, let's continue on this train of thought. There's a legal penalty. It's available right away. all 4 meta players will immediately vote to abandon.
That's a little bit.
I mean,
that's
why the score goes down, right?
Am I wrong?
Right. That's why your score goes down. Your rating goes down. If
you don't want to fucking abandon out of the key.
Again,
maybe.
I've thought through a lot of the things about how you could make it work, and I genuinely think you couldn't make it work with the old system of you need to time the key, like you have it.
Yes. I do agree with that.
So that's sort of why I cooked up the idea of losing rating. But I also think it's highly, highly probable that if they introduce a system where you could lose dungeon score, people would also be outraged by that, right? In the current WoW and part of playing an RPG is the fact that you don't go backwards, right? If I wanted to go backwards, I wouldn't be playing World of Warcraft.
I like the fact that Mythic Plus you don't lose score. I think that's actually I think that was a good decision. I don't know who made it. I think it's a good one though.
So
that's why I think it wouldn't work.
At high ranking in other games, at some point, you just sit there. Like if you're the highest score at 4,500 and no one else is close to you, you're just gonna sit there. You're not gonna queue anymore. Especially if you can lose score. Why would you ever? Right? Like that's the other thing you have to consider with that kind of thing. Is usually people, add a decay, so that doesn't happen. There's just so many like niche things there. But you're right. Like there is something there. It would just be a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you also are right in that. Then it would put into question: is this what everybody wants? Right? Like this system doesn't really. This system does not really improve things for people who mostly want to queue for weeklies.
This is what Wizardries wanted the weekly queue, right? She wants the queue for the trivial keys. Stab wants the queue for the fucking highest level, right? These are very different systems. Designing a system for both of them to exist in is tough, and I think that's the beauty of LFG is that it's not perfect, it has its flaws, but it is a system that can exist for all players, right?
Yeah. That's why, I think trying to add in deterministic things for what players want is like trying to get something from AI and it hallucinating all the goddamn time. It's just not it cannot read your mind. It cannot give you exactly what you want. So why not go with a system that can give you what you want? You just have to put in a minimal amount of effort. We're not asking for much. But if you don't trust you and the other people to queue into LFR, how the hell are you going to trust your group in a 22 key of random people?
That is a pretty funny point, that if the way LFR works is everyone does nothing, and also if there's any mechanic that can kill you, everyone will die to it. It doesn't matter if it's like one thing in the fight, everyone will die to it in LFR.
Dude, you can't even get to Dimensius before they had to nerf it. Like, getting to Dimensius as a group, impossible in LFR. Like, crazy.
Anyway, that's sort of why you have to have the whole rating system has to be reworked and why it has to exist too. I just don't. It would be different, but I do think it would potentially lead to a system where if you're somebody who just wants to do keys and likes to do keys, you could spend a lot of time in World of Warcraft in a keystone without having to put forth social effort. And then also, it wouldn't discriminate towards classes or whatever. Yeah. I just think it's hard.
It is very hard.
The most likely solution, I think, would be a weekly key simulator where if you have a sufficient amount of dungeon rating, you can queue for a weekly, and then it just sticks you with the first 5 people. Again, maybe there might be some, you need to have a lust or whatever. But
I still think that the most, if Blizzard could spend time trying to fix one thing, I wouldn't have them spending a bunch of development time trying to come up with a way to create a solo queue. Instead, I would really just need them to sit down in a boardroom and discuss how do we get more people to play tank and really start to enact some change, right? Not just spitballing ideas, but trying to really push more people to play tank, because I think that role imbalance that we currently face is a massive part that's plaguing the player base, to the point where you'll have tanks that are fairly underqualified and DPS that are fairly overqualified in the exact same key.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize that. I think people don't realize necessarily that if you move to a queue system, taking away the agency of a lot of tanks and their ability to the benefit, you're essentially removing benefits from playing tank player by implementing some sort of queue or whatever, especially if you're putting emphasis on that queue where, okay, everyone cares about the rating now, and it's like, okay, well, as a tank I could pick my team, and that was the benefit of playing tank. Now all I'm getting is the queue time. So also, in the current system in LFG, you can go in as a tank and then 5 minutes in the poll when everything goes wrong and your team is typing /abandon, you can just abandon and go find new people. Whereas now, you just get stuck with that. Like, I could see so many tanks or so many people quitting tank if that was the case. You have some idiot guy complaining about your route and people are pinging you and shit and you can't do anything about it. Like,
I actually think one of the best, like, I like the idea for more tanks. It's a different thing. Like, let's say they do have the time. I actually think one of the best things to add is in like the 0.5 patch-ish, when they added, what is it, the Umbral Myth or whatever the thing's called, the 3400 achievement, is actually to add a 12 queue simulator. If you have Umbral Myth, you can queue for 12s. I think that's fair.
Man, that's way overqualified though.
I agree. But you in this kind of system, you have to worry about the lowest common denominator.
I worry that fragmenting the player base is going to increase the average queue time for all players involved like that. I think that there's something nice about 12s being kind of this like weird balance of people who are progging 12s. Some people are there for weeklies, and then there's some guy that's equally qualified for 12s, and they're just kind of all there for the exact same thing.
I agree with you, but I do think in this case, if, let's say, this exact example, 16s get you the ability to queue for 12s, not everyone will use that queue. That is, I think, the very important distinction. Because let's say you're tired, you're like, I forgot the one
Wizardries,
name. Wizardries. You're just gonna queue up as a DPS or whatever. You go make dinner, that kind of thing. Chill, listen to music, chat with friends for 30 minutes to your queue. Cool. Other people, especially those who want to be able to choose or be able to, search for a more optimized group or a specific dungeon that they want, they can still go in LFG and do exactly what you said. And this is exactly like this hybrid medium of trivial content having a split queue works. Because it works in other games.
I think I'm out. But I get the.
That's right.
I get the pitch. I think I preferred the current system of LFG where you have all the players intermingling with one another. I think it is part of what makes an MMO an MMO.
Don't get me wrong, I do too. But I think there is a place for that because it's specifically only for 12s. I mean, you can say 10s too. Fuck it, like just 10s. And if you want to push higher in a solo queue, you go higher. I think that's fine, personally, but...
I do think if they turn Mythic Plus into a queue simulator, I sort of agree with Nstab that the social part of the game is basically dead at this point for a lot of people, but I think that would be the final nail in the coffin and I think a lot of people would be happy with that, but I guess the reason why I don't necessarily like when you're defending the social aspect of it is because Blizzard has basically thrown that away at this point, right? Like, they are doing everything they can to make things easier for people who don't want to find a guild and don't want to network and they just want to log in and press the buttons. So, if that's their design goal and that's what's happening, then they should, that's not really an argument then. Like, if anything, the fact that it has social elements is a negative in the current game design.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to homework stuff,
I really like social elements of the game, and I feel like anything that continues.
Oh, I do too.
Anything that continues to remove it is pretty cooked. I will say I did something that was a little bit unique the other day. I actually was in LFG. I didn't have anything that I was like listing. It literally said looking for team to push 22s because I've actually been having a bit of a hard time finding people to play with this season, and I got a ton of people just fucking adding me because they need AUG players, right? And it was just, I wasn't utilizing LFG to list my own key. Instead, I was utilizing it to try to network and find more people to just play with, and I got added by like 3 or 4 tanks. I was like, thank fucking God.
Holy.
I mean, if that converts to me just getting 1 additional invite a week or something like that, I'm stoked. Like, I just like playing WoW.
I never thought that worked.
I had somebody DM me. They go, does that work? And I go, I don't know. It's probably better than standing around in Silvermoon.
Yeah, that is true. That is definitely true. If it doesn't have to work for it to, it's not like you're doing anything anyway.
I was just AFK and I put my fucking B tag there and tanks added me. I was like,
I think the
like Resilience 22s that added me. I'm way lower.
That guy should add me. I need Resilience.
He said that he didn't have any Augs on his B tag, or they needed more.
Holy shit.
Like, okay, not bad.
You should add Grog.
But that's the socializing element, right? That I was talking about specifically. I like that kind of element in WoW. And LFG is not perfect. I don't think any of us are out here being like, oh yeah, LFG is a really good system. And I'm sure there's no solace whenever you're sitting there and you're on minute 45 of trying to list for, apply to groups, and you're still getting fucking declined for keys that you're pretty qualified for, and it's your last key for Resilient 16. You keep getting fucking declined. I'm sure there's no solace there, but like, yeah, it's hard to come up with a good system that fits everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, community Q&A.
What a rant.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, we fielded a pretty large community Q&A for episode 100 here, where we are fielding a bunch of questions from our lovely viewers. Again, you can tweet at @thebenchwow if you want your question featured in future Q&A. All right, first question. EO Sky, MDL. They say, hi, guys. My question is, what is the biggest challenge you feel that the bench has faced since starting, and how did you guys overcome it? It would be interesting to hear from you guys for each of your perspectives. I'll take this. I think we were talking about it a little bit earlier. I think it's actually just the intense amount of hatred that we got at various points during the comment section. So my relationship with the comments has changed a lot over the course of recording this podcast, where especially whenever I was doing Titan Forging or I'll look at my own content, the comment section is normally fairly positive towards things that I make, whether it be big documentary style videos, whether it be tips, whether it be tech, whatever it may be. Most of that stuff was always positive, including Titan Forge podcast, which I did for like 5 fucking years. The bench, there's a lot of people that comment, and I think it's just a kind of how society has changed over time. They have very overtly negative comments, and whenever I first, was starting with the bench, I would read the comments regularly, and I noticed, first and foremost, it would start warping my opinions, but also it made my self-esteem go down and made Imposter Syndrome go up, where I was like, maybe this is the wrong decision. Maybe making this podcast is the wrong decision. And I really sat down and thought about it for a long time, and I've come to the perspective of, I don't want my opinions to change because of what the comment section has to think. Their opinions are just as valid as mine. At the same time, like, I know that reading a bunch of negative comments negatively affects my personal psyche, and so I think that is the biggest challenge that I have faced, is just the negative backlash that we get on some of our takes, because our comment section can be overtly negative whenever most people who talk about the podcast, or almost 100% of the people who ever DM me about the podcast, have only nothing but positive things to say. People come into my Twitch chat all the time and they're like, I love the most recent episode. I watch the bench the moment that it comes up every single Tuesday. Love the content. Love how it's always on time. But the negative aspects of it, I think, has been the biggest challenge for me.
Oh, you want to go? Or you want me to
go? You go.
All right. I think I agree with Tettles. Comments are definitely a big thing at times, but they're nothing compared to other comments on the internet, in my opinion. I
don't associate with negativity all the time, so it's like, it's just like I am susceptible to getting one guide like off the fucking planet.
That's fair. I think, like, in general as well, there are certain times where it's really tough to come up with interesting topics. And I know I'm not the best at this. Like, thank God for Tettles and Growl, who come up with amazing ideas for topics. But especially, like, we're getting to a point now that until the 12-1 PTR starts, we're running out of things to talk about. And we just start yapping and we go in whatever direction we feel like. But I think that's one of the things that I struggle with as well. I guess just one other quick thing. 2 hours is a long time. And I start getting, like, I can't sit still for a very long amount of time. That's just a personal thing. Like, I'm just gonna be. I shifted my chair a lot.
There are certainly harder things to do than podcast for 2 hours a week, though. I must admit.
And yap about solo queue for an hour. I think that was a long one, but
that might have been 40 minutes. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I think you guys took two definite minor annoyances of mine. The commenters wanting us to be politicians and fight for their cause, and also just having to not having to, wanting to show up each week, but some weeks it's just like, what the heck do I talk about? Those are definitely two minor inconveniences. I don't know. I feel super lucky, and I don't really have a lot negative to say about the pod. I feel like it's actually quite good. I think we made a conscious decision at the beginning to be like, let's just talk about stuff and let's not worry about having responsibilities and just do whatever we want to do, and that has made it easier on me.
Yes.
If anything, my only complaint is I feel like I appreciate everything we have and I appreciate our audience, and I feel like at times I can not put enough effort in, and like, I'm the one guy that is, I'm the no cam guy who's lazy, and Tettles will do the recording, and then Squishy will do the backup recording, and then Tettles will do the editing and the thumbnail, and then Squishy will do the stuff on Wowhead, and I'm just like sitting here like a cat with a waffle on its head like, all right guys, see you next week, I'll just start yapping about stuff. But I mean, like, all right, it's a fucking really good gig for me. I actually don't think I have any really major complaints other than the fact that I feel like I'm lazy about things.
I mean, I think it was a conscious decision from the start, though, that this is 2 hours a week that we are dedicating to just yapping about World of Warcraft. We don't have a Patreon because we don't want to have additional obligations on top of that, right? Where I think we're probably at the point where we could somehow cash in on parts of our audience, right? We have built a pretty big following of people who just enjoy the bench and probably would help support us. And we probably could cash in on that. At the same time, I think that we are all in a state where the content that we would want to provide and give back to those fans, like Growl said, we kind of just would rather people be so positively supporting us in other ways, right? Just enjoy watching the podcast.
Right. Yeah, and I also think it's less about cashing in and more so just put forth the effort, right? Like, I think if any one of us was like, hey, I really want to put in a bunch of effort and time into this and create a Patreon, and I guess cash in. Well, I just mean that, like, we could do it if we wanted to create the content for it, but none of us are really ready or at that point yet. But yes. I think that I mean, I wouldn't be against it, and we've talked about it, but it's just we're just tuned. Not ready to do that. Stay tuned. Oh.
For Kettle's insurance claim, and if you see a Patreon turn up in the next week or two, you know why.
Oh, fuck, I don't want it.
Girl, I actually have one for you.
Okay.
Your hardest thing is not fiddling with poker chips during the podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of little ones. The poker chips one really got me because I feel like because we're doing a podcast and because we're doing audio, that it should be high quality, and if it bothered people or was annoying, then I should not do it. At the same time, so many people told me that they have never noticed, and they've listened to many, many episodes, and they've literally never heard it. It made me very confused, and it's just something that I super naturally do at my desk without thinking. It's something that I've always done ever since I was, 20 or something. So I've definitely been weird about it, but I've tried my best not to. I mentioned this on one pod. I have a felt now on my desk so that in the off chance that I actually do randomly do it on accident, it doesn't happen, or it like doesn't clank against the table rather, which is I think what happens.
I will say,
the annoying parts.
Pretty sweet gig. We get together once a week, and this is I think what we kind of aimed for the podcast to be: just get together once a week and just talk about World of Warcraft as people who like the game. That was the only objective, right?
Yeah. Also, what I was going to say about the commenters too is I think it's a little bit less about society and more about, I think we're more willing to just talk about things and create ideas and bounce stuff off each other. And okay, maybe a hard thing for me or something that I've been trying to figure out exactly is, let's say if Squishy or Tettles says something that's stupid or whatever, or like I know that I disagree with and I know that the commenters will disagree with, I don't really want my co-host to feel stupid or to argue with them or be argumentative though, but at the same time I want to have the discussion, and that's a hard balance to have, especially I think Squishy, who is the most grounded and willing to bring up other people's ideas or come to a middle ground, whereas I will usually not do that. And so at the same time, I don't want to argue with Squishy, especially if I think that he may just be offering the point to, hey, here's another side to this, rather than trying to argue with it. But at the same time, like, I have to call him out, so.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's
I don't know what I do.
There's something a little bit parasocial about that, right? Where we're friends, but the viewers, they're watching us discuss this, and so then they're applying almost I guess like positive and negatives to our personalities based on takes that we have surrounding a video game, which is there's a little bit something parasocial about it, right?
Yeah,
I agree.
It's tough, but yeah, Growl, instead of poker chips, I don't know if I've ever shown this. I have a key clacker. It's just literally 4 keys. You just put your fingers on this and you just do this the entire time. It's the best thing ever. It makes barely any noise, but it's just a key. It's just a mini keyword. It's great.
That's good.
You should get one.
Okay, next question. I think we sufficiently talked through that one. From Steven Rikers, he says, what if Blizzard brings back heroic / mythic / hard mode 10-man rating, but it's with Classic Plus? All right, Growl, I think that this one is 100% for you.
Yeah, this was me looking and then memeingly switching around the show notes and ideas so that we just talk about resilient keys and solo queue and raid rewards the whole time as a meme for the 100th episode. I'm like, how do I get classic and classic hardcore and that stuff in here? I do think it's a great idea to experiment. I don't really think that when you're thinking about classic ideals, it doesn't really fit into classic though. Part of the idea of classic is you have a shit ton of people in the raid, and the main difficulty of the raid is just rounding everyone up and everyone showing up, and then the raid just sort of falls over. Whereas I think with 10-man rating, it's actually the opposite, where the joy of 10-man rating is you have very sharp, specific responsibility for each player, and you have a big impact on the raid. So I don't think that would really fit into Classic Plus, but I do like the idea of 10-man rating.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I think Mythic Plus has become so popular. Is just because the lower group size and the amount of individual impact that you have is so high that it feels really good. Like, I think that's why Mythic Plus is probably the most popular game mode, at least for retail. And then, yeah, I think maybe smaller group sizes, there could be something like that for rating. You don't think it would fit in with Classic specifically, though?
No, it's possible, but my envision or glory of Classic Plus is them really capturing the elements of vanilla and the things that made it good. I'm not saying that they couldn't make... And my point is just like, if there is 10-man rating and there's these complex, heavy, single responsibility raids, at that point, that's not really Classic Plus. That's just some new way to experience WoW, and it's not really Classic Plus. Yeah, I've always sort of saw rating versus M Plus as in music being part of a large band versus being a part of a jam session, right? As a raid, it's all about doing your part in consistency and when it's your time doing your role. Whereas a jam session, you're playing off other people. Oh, this guy has cooldowns. This guy doesn't. Okay, the healer's in trouble.
Yeah,
Whereas in raid, there's no the healer's in trouble. You just press your defensives when you're taking the most damage, and that's it.
I mean, I feel like offensive cooldowns have such a different feeling, at least for DPS and Mythic Plus, than they do in raid. You press your offensive CDs in Mythic Plus, you just see the fucking pack getting deleted. You're like, that feels good. Whereas on the boss, you press your offensive CDs and the boss's health moves 1%. You're like, oh my god, I'm going beast mode.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't know why that they couldn't experiment more in Mythic though. Not Mythic, in retail in general.
Yeah.
Like, they could absolutely experiment more. Like, you could have a 5-player raid instead of a dungeon.
You're fucking cooking.
Like, that is a thing that could happen.
I think they're kind of going in that direction with what they've been doing, and I hope they continue down that path. It would be interesting, though, the idea of what if there was an entire flex raid?
So, like,
that was just...
I wouldn't even go...
Tazavesh hard mode, I think, is a good conduit to this, right? It didn't feel like a 5-man raid, but you're talking about like a something that you're actually progressing, right?
It was closer.
Yes.
But like, actually something that's going to take some pulls. You're like, because if you go into any dungeon right now, if you wipe, it's a problem. Usually.
I think you're cooking. I'm in.
Like, go through honestly, even if the Delve boss was a 5-man Delve, they wouldn't do this, but like a version of the Delve boss that was 5-man.
Yeah.
So imagine every tier, you have the regular raid, you have the solo Delve boss, and you have 5-man boss. So you have different avenues for different things. Obviously, that's more work, but Like, just experiment with things. But yeah, Classic Plus.
Yeah. Next question. How do you mentally approach pushing, especially with pugging, when you know you're likely to list your key, deplete, and then you're no more likely to time the lower key because the applicants are going to be people that the lower key is score for? It's a big mental block for me. I'll probably feel this. I think I've probably had the most experience with this recently, especially with the multiple 0 to heroes that I've done. To me, I have just depleted so many keys in my lifetime that I am completely unfazed about any individual run, right? Like, I view a key as something that is supposed to be depleted. Not every key is supposed to be timed. I do understand, like, I think that getting attached, there's like a speedrunning term. They talk about getting attached to the run, right? Where if you get attached to each individual run, the fact that you're going to fall off of Bowser's castle at Bowser in the Sky on at the very end of the run, and you're too attached to that run, it's going to be hard for you to sleep at night because you're going to be thinking about that run. Where I think that's how I feel about Mythic Plus is like I've just consciously made an effort to not get attached to any individual Mythic Plus run specifically, and I also understand that keys are kind of meant to just be timed and depleted. Timing a key is no more enjoyable for me than depleting a key. And it's more about the journey than it is that one specific key in that moment. And so I think that for me, it's like, I don't have a mental block with that. But do either of you guys have any ideas to how to overcome that hurdle or that mental block? Because I feel like I discussed how I approach it, but I don't think I talked about like how I would even overcome something like that.
I think for me, a big thing is to be more process oriented and focus on your gameplay and judge your gameplay very harshly and pride yourself in having good gameplay rather than only focusing on the goal and trying to time the key ahead of you. Because I think
that's a good one.
You will enjoy the game a lot more, assuming that you're improving.
Yeah.
And honestly, you might not believe it, but just doing your own key and pushing it and playing the game for fun, you will actually very likely get better faster as well. And then once you're really good, have you ever watched a stream of Dorky or some really good team and they're in a key that's 1 or 2 levels lower than they normally do, and it's just a complete fiesta, and they have 17 deaths and they pulled 7 extra birds and they messed up a boss, and then they time it and they're like, wow, 21s are a joke. And then you kind of look back at yourself and you're in LFG, and a 21 in LFG feels like every single thing needs to go perfectly, and if you ever have a major time setback, you just lost. And then realize that you can go on that journey of trying to become a player is that good in that group, just because you might not have the results to show for it right away, where you can be like, okay, now I'm X rating, that means I'm as good as hopeful or whatever. Realistically, you can go on that journey and get close to the point where you're close to that level of skill, and then the results will eventually follow.
I think a kind of an interesting point that Growl just made is like, what if you just didn't look at the people around you? What if you didn't look at the 4 people that you invited to your group, and you didn't look at your keystone level, but instead you just looked at your own personal gameplay and assessed how that dungeon went, not based on whether or not you timed or depleted the key, but whether or not you performed well or poorly? Like, that could be an interesting way of approaching it.
Yeah, and not to keep complaining about resilient, but resilient keys are going to make this process worse, right? Because the average, how far you get into the dungeon and your success rate is just going down. You know, what it means to be a 16 key person now versus before is just different. And I don't mean that to try and be elitist or to say that people don't deserve it. The system is the system. You know, there's no judgment there. It's just that before you had to have some level of success rate doing the key level in order to time it, right? So like, you know, most of the key levels you would at least like get far of them. It was true that you would deplete a lot, but nowadays you can have a lot of the people playing there have made 20 attempts or 30 attempts on the key below them to get to the one that you're at now. And so when you're playing in a group full of people where it took them 30 tries to get the key level that they needed before this, it's, well, okay, what do you expect on this key now? Like, that's just going to happen.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, there's the kind of silly answer. I'll go with the more serious one first, and that is more what Growl said. I think you have to remember your strengths.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what people say about Tettles, he knows he's good at the fucking video game, despite how much people try to say otherwise at times. Yeah, sorry to call you out, buddy.
I've just played a lot. All right, listen, I'm not that good. I'm just unemployed.
So, no, you have friends, and that you're there because of you're in a group. You have a group of friends. Sorry.
You're one guying me. I'm getting like, fucking one guy by the comment section right fucking now, actually.
Like, everybody has their own strengths, and remembering what those are, no matter how good you are or how badly you perform in a single key, like, everybody has their strengths. Everybody has their weaknesses, and knowing that and slowly being able to progress on them is going to be good. The other answer is, unfortunately, don't pug, which is difficult.
Oh.
But the amount of time that is spent, how you think about the amount of time that you would spend depleting keys or, not timing or searching for the next key or looking at LFG, and you spend that time networking instead.
Yeah.
That could lead to a very similar result with just, with a happier you. That is a possibility, right? Like, people don't want to put in the effort to networking, but they sure as hell are going to put in the same amount of effort, if not more, into just slamming their face and throwing at things at a dartboard until they hit a bullseye and pass the key. Both are viable strategies. For me personally, I would rather network and slowly build up a group together with the time that I have, versus just YOLOing into LFG. Probably not the answer many people want to hear, though.
I think it's I think that the problem that you're kind of tiptoeing around is the fact that with LFG you're not actually progressing anything, versus playing with a couple of friends you're actually, you're going through a process of progressing. Whereas what was described,
you will get to the end.
Exactly. Whereas what was described there was the fact that you have to start with a new slate of people. That it doesn't have to be like that. Now, for a lot of people it is. Which is why I don't know if it's necessarily the best advice to give, but it is offering up an alternative perspective that could be helpful for this person, right?
Yes. You said it is. It's not forced on them. Right? You said it is. Why is
that it is forced on them,
Thank
right?
You. Thank you. And that's what I wanted to clarify. You say it is, and many people have that mindset of, yeah, I have to do this.
Sure.
Is it really? I just want to challenge that a little.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Okay. Squishy, I want you to field this first one, or this next one rather.
Okay.
He says, Adam Landon, he says, what's your opinion on mastery as a stat? For many classes, it's just a different flavor of a better scaling offensive versatility, i.e. something like Beast Mastery Hunter, it's just your pets do X% more damage, which is basically all of their damage pretty much. Some are good, don't get me wrong, but many are bland. So what is your opinion on mastery as a stat? And then what would you do differently with mastery if you determine that it is a problem?
I think it's okay. It's no better and no worse than other things. We've had our rants in the 100 episodes on the bench about secondary stats and how boring they are. I don't think it's inherently bad. I think it's inherently unbalanced. Some specs, like Havoc Demon Hunter, happen to get movement speed out of it as well for some reason. Stuff like that is just a little weird, but it feels like just an archaic thing in the game that doesn't serve necessarily a big purpose, but it's just there. And it's just like, okay. Personally, I would simplify it to remove the whole mastery point thing that I'm sure Tettles you know about.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just complex, and just making it easier to understand. If they for those who don't know, there used to be another stat called multi-strike.
That was a crit,
which was basically just, I mean, it's like all of them. It's a % chance to do a % more damage.
Yeah.
Like, that's all the stats except for haste, really. And so all the stats are just very samey. I don't think it's a problem, but I don't know what I would replace it with.
I hate how players interact with stats specifically. This is not a unique thing to mastery. I think that mastery does have a tendency to make some specs feel better. So in that aspect, I think it's a better stat than most. But I think that stats are just so optimized in a weird way for retail specifically that it's hard to get away from stats not just being a different flavor of offensive versatility, because you've simmed yourself into this scenario, right? Maybe that's a good way of describing it.
Yeah, I mean, secondary stats are just really boring, and there's not. It's hard to find a way to make them interesting or different. I do think that it's okay that mastery exists because there are some specs or situations we would like for every specs mastery to be good or interesting, but the fact that it even has some classes that it enriches them or makes you think more. For example, Resto Druid mastery, I think, for dungeons at least, is great because it essentially increases the amount of healing for each hot that you have on the person. And so you're thinking about that in relation to your gear, and the more mastery you have, the more emphasis you put on stacking additional hots and healing one singular person. And so I think that it's hard to get something like that on every spec, but it exists and it is cool for some specs.
Okay. Take, for example, I just thought of this idea. Mastery now increases the percentages on your tier bonus. Your current tier bonus.
I mean, mastery could be cooldown reduction, and that would be fucking lit.
That's true too. But like, there is some interesting things. But like, mastery can interact with your tier set bonus and change the values on there. It could be cooldown reduction. It could be. I mean, we've had crit damage before, but like, there's things they could do if they really wanted to go. But I've a feeling they're not going to go in that direction anytime soon.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the talent trees alone probably take a lot of iteration. I can't imagine they would be able to like redo masteries and stuff. Yeah. It's not on their priorities.
Next question. Another one from EOS Guy. They say, another question. Who's been your favorite guest that has ever been on the podcast, and why? Dude, I feel like all of our guests we've set up in a way that is like very deliberate, right? I think that we went with like a different route for how guests are on the show. They're not here for the entire ep, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to steal this one because I think that it's going to get stolen. I like a lot of our guests, but I really like the THD episode. I thought that he meshed really well and was, I don't want to use the phrase provocative, but was interesting enough, but also kept it reined in and wasn't out of control or ridiculous. And also behind the scenes, he helped us together the idea for the show. And also we were dealing with technical difficulties that day and we inconvenienced him and he still was a really good guest. So I think shout out to THD. Yes, that was how I felt so bad. And of course it's my fault because I'm an idiot, right? I'm not recording on the backup or whatever. So that when something happens, I can't save it.
Taylor's gonna go?
He's looking through our list of guests.
I am
Probably.
looking,
I was about to do
looking
that,
through our list of guests right now.
I think for me, like, it was Evade. I think Evade and I think very similarly. In terms of like high level thoughts and like trying to break the game in various ways and how things interact and stuff like that. So I think it's just always, I love talking with Evade. I think that like, and the insight of like, he is clearly there to give feedback in a way of helping to teach people. Of like, I think I think the UI should be better in this way so that people can understand things better.
Yeah.
I think this, graphic is absolute dog shit and it should be changed, like that kind of thing.
Evade is very well articulated, and he also he thinks through things very thoroughly, and I think that works well for a podcast and sometimes like debating and shit, right?
Yeah.
I thought Zorthus did a really good job. I wasn't on that episode. I ended up watching it after the fact. That guy fucking rules. I love that guy. I thought Farfa, we've had him on twice, and I think his episodes were both pretty
Farfa
good
was
too.
good, yeah.
Yeah, I think that Farfa, even though he's not like an endemic WoW creator, I think he offers up a pretty good alternative perspective for the show that sometimes we lack a little bit. I don't think he's like perfect to have on for every single episode, and I think that like, but I do think it offers up like really good alternative perspectives.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Fucking love the tomato though. That guy also rules.
Okay, funny thing. I saw something on the tomato episode. I'm pretty sure there was some Discord lag because it was throughout the episode. I was hosting it and recording, and there was just constantly times when like Growl and I were talking over Zorthis because I think he started talking earlier and it just didn't come to us or something. I don't know.
You can literally hear the OS.
Yeah, see, it was like an actual thing. It was annoying, and I wish it was different, but
yeah. All right. Next question from Dilaw. Do you think part of the reason that there is a general tank and healer shortage is because of the lack of options? DPS players have an abundance of options. Meanwhile, tanks and healers only have 5 options respectively. With class identity being so important for the game, will we see more people tanking and in these healing roles if more classes offered them? IMO, we should take some of the notoriously dogshit specs to balance DPS specs and turn them into tanks. Affliction lock, enhance, holy fuck, and provide classes without diverse role representation, but people like playing them thematically with more options. I know that the top 0.1% or 0.01% would really play an anthropomorphic dumpster if it creates. But for me personally, I'm too warlock brain to play anything else, and I am a civilian TM. Okay, this base, by the way, is funny shit. It's kind of an interesting perspective. Not what I really considered is the reason that people are so averse to playing tanks and healers because of the lack of options.
No, I don't think it is at all.
I think it's a hard one because I think there are a lot of specs in WoW, man. There are so many specs. I think they gotta have a hard time. I could understand if the argument was like the specs aren't different enough or they don't feel unique enough, but I don't think just adding more specs is the right answer. And at the same time, you have the community pushing on, oh, my spec can't do this, and the spec is OP because it can do this, and more homogenization of all the classes. And that's a huge thing that everybody's been pushing. So it's really hard for them to try and create more unique and different classes. I think that WoW does a pretty damn good job of it. I wouldn't disagree if they came out with a new spec at the beginning of next expansion and it's a tank spec and it's OP as shit that a bunch of people are going to play it and there's going to be more tanks, right? Like, but I don't think that's maybe it's a longer term solution. Maybe you just do that like 2 times in the next 2 expansions. You just put out a tank that's OP as shit at the start of the expansion. An interesting thought is a lot of times I think new specs or classes or whatever are sort of there to, I don't want to say sell the expansion, but kind of. And so they want it to appeal to the most amount of players. And when it isn't a DPS, it appeals to less players, if that makes sense.
That's valid. I find it hard to rebut his point because, I mean, he's not wrong, right? These things are true. They feel a bit more corollary than causational for me. I think the reason that people just don't want to play tank is because what it means to be a tank, I'm not talking about like you need to know how to route through the dungeon or anything like that. Just the concept of, hey, you do less damage than DPS, you get your ass beat by the mobs. Just like a fundamental, what does it mean to be a tank, is just not that appealing. Like, I think that is like, I think that is the step 1 problem with tanking specifically. And then there is the secondary, tertiary issues of like, more enfranchised players don't want to play tank because tank kind of sucks and it has all this responsibility. But I think the first issue is the login screen problem where you have tank described to you and you're like, wow, that role sounds like it sucks. I'm playing DPS.
Yes. I mean, you ask most tanks what their favorite time playing is, it's mob. Because of Vengeance. They actually got to do relevant damage. And I think it was Ian that said that the number 1 add-on of all time is recount or a damage meter, essentially. You need tanks to be able to do damage. I think that's, whether you're high end, low end, if you're doing damage, you're having fun.
Yep.
And then, like Tettles said, there's just a bunch of other things. This additional responsibility, threat fucking sucks ass, like this.
I think you were required to play for like, what, 1,000 hours before you even encounter that shit, though, right?
That's true. But yes, I mean, like, leveling as a tank, I mean, you can pull a bunch of stuff, which is cool, but it takes forever to kill it.
Yeah.
I would honestly love to see a season where tanks just do 90% of a DPS while actively tanking.
What if they did 110%?
Also the mobs being magnetized to my fucking tank in Mythic Plus. I hate threat.
Also okay with that.
Yeah.
Like, make the tank changes season, see how it goes, And if it sucks, just go back on it. But I feel like the doing nothing avenue right now is just awful.
I hate it.
What were you saying, Growl? Sorry.
Oh, I don't remember what I was saying, but I thought of something else. If you're a DPS okay, I'm actually just gonna segue this into the tip of the week because I've been like pugging more and playing more again, and I'm kind of like seeing things. So this isn't my link, by the way. My link is another thing of the week. Wait, what? So as a tank, no, it isn't this. It isn't. Well, I can do this one too, I guess. But as a tank, you need to be decisive and tag all of the mobs you're tagging as fast as possible and get into position for the pull. So one thing I always see tanks do is they start pulling mobs and then they sit there and try and generate threat. But the issue is, as soon as you pull mobs and sit there, your DPS think that you're done or like want to send their cooldown so they don't not get use out of it. And so when the reason that DPS are pulling threat off you is because you're sitting there. Like if you just thrash all of the mobs or tag them and then keep running forward, if they rip threat off of a mob that you've tagged, that's their fault. Like there's no, you needed to hit that mob more. Like that's not how you play the game. Like you tag the mobs. I'm not saying you don't tag them. You tag them and then you move on. As a DPS, it's not even good for your damage to send all of your damage early. Like when you have stuff that hits a lot of mobs, you want the tank to have everything gathered and have it neatly packed. Like one thing I've been sort of experimenting and learning on with AUG is like before I was rushing so fast to like get into my cooldowns and do stuff. But if you just wait until everything is gathered and then just breath and hit your stuff, it feels wrong when you're just sitting there in the lust or whatever. But just wait for the mobs to get grouped and then press your damage buttons, and you actually do so much more damage, and you never have the problem of ripping threat off of the tank early on. So I think that's a thing that I think DPS and tanks and pugs need to learn.
I'll let you build. I'll build off of that, and then you can talk about this add-on that you brought. One of the biggest tips that I got during my Brewmaster Monk 0 to Hero, it was by Evade, and he said. He was like watching my play. He goes, "Do you want a tip?" And I go, "Absolutely." He goes, "You're not gathering the pack fast enough." He's like, the thing that you need to be focusing on in each and every single pull is the moment that the pack gets gathered. That is when you're able to actually generate threat on the mobs. And he's like, "How do you get the mobs stacked quick enough to where you're able to generate threat?" Think about a pull like Algathar Academy. The best way that the tank can generate threat is to not hit each of the 150 fucking lashers with individual abilities or a keg smash or a thrash or whatever. Yeah. The best way that they can get threat is they moonfire big lasher, moonfire big lasher, moonfire big lasher. All of the lashers converge on them. They press Incarn, they thrash, and now they have threat for the rest of the pull, right? And so they got the pull gathered about 20 seconds faster, and you cannot lose threat.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, Growl, what is this add-on?
Oh, yeah, so this is the cool stuff we've seen this week. I'm directly stealing this from Corey May's YouTube, so shout out for her. This wasn't something that I just discovered and is brilliant. This like popped up in my feed. But essentially what this is, from my understanding, I haven't really configured it or messed with it yet, but it shows the next pull of MDT and whatever the current, I think it's a short, whatever the next pull is on your screen live. So for example, if your tank is following the route of the MDT that you're doing, it'll show the mobs in the next pull that you're gonna pull. And so it's actually very, very useful both as a tank or as a DPS to just know what's coming next.
Add-ons got purged, I think, by the way.
Yeah, add-ons. Yeah, so I don't know. That's why I said I don't know yet, because I haven't experimented with it that much. So I don't know how consistent it is or if it'll still work. But it seems like an insanely useful thing.
This is insane. If you're somebody who's learning to tank. It advances based on enemy force progression. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, there was a version of. I first saw this at the start of the expansion. Somebody linked this to me. So this has been around for a while. It might not be the same one. I should actually look.
Yeah, but like, have you ever been in a situation, even with like tanks that you know, where you have to say the words, "Is this the pull?" Because you need to like, and you're not trying to be mean, like, but you just need to know what's coming. And so and I feel like it'll be very helpful even for pugs, because let's say even as pugs as a DPS, because you can just click on the route the tank does, and now you know what's coming next, and if they want to skip stuff or whatever.
The problem is it's ugly as fuck, and it's putting a PNG in the middle of my screen.
Yeah, exactly. So I haven't configured it and got it to a point where I like, oh, this is really good. I'm integrating this into my UI, because I haven't messed with it yet, but it's something that people might like. Also, everyone's UI is like ugly anyway, so who cares?
Yeah. I saw her using this the other day. I was literally like, what the fuck is this?
Oh, that's funny.
Sick.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, maybe pull it up in her VOD. So
dude, I mean, look at Yeah, it's good. I would personally freak the fuck out if I had this big PNG in the middle of my screen, admittedly.
I mean,
what if you put it above the radar?
What do you mean above the radar?
I just mean I would put it like in a
side
corner of my screen.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it where she has it. I would have it in the corner of my screen, like next to my damage meters.
This would tilt the fuck out of me, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, maybe. Again, it's just something to look into if this interests you. Or who knows, maybe you use it while you're learning the route and then you turn it off.
Bro, I'm a passenger. I don't need this shit. I just walk around.
Just as a reminder, no competitive advantage.
XD.
Add-ons are gone.
Okay. Next question from the Brow. He says, would you support updating racial abilities to be like PvP talents? 1 to select the usable skill, 1 for the stat percent, and 1 for a crafting bonus. No. I think I'd be opposed. I actually like some. I understand.
I was ready to fight you on this.
I'm a little bit of a different mindset. Like, so from a competitive perspective, I don't really understand why racial give a competitive advantage at all. Like, what the fuck is a dwarf? Why has he got a bleed dispel? Why is Shadow Meld a thing? On the other hand, I actually don't, from an RPG perspective, I actually like that racials are kind of unique. I think they're stupid. Like, I don't think that Shadow Meld should be as strong as it is, but I kind of like it.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't think they do. Like, I know people want this. I know people have wanted this for a while, and I was there at one point too. Like, I do think that the completely broken ones probably need to be reduced a little, like old Arcane Torrent.
Am I pissed when I'm probably making all of my characters a Night Elf? Yeah, kinda, but like,
yeah, I like. It's unfortunately iconic to the game, and changing it at this point would, I feel like, take something away from the game itself.
Oh, gosh. I call this guy the Brow. He literally has in his bio, it rhymes with snow. This guy's the bro.
Yeah, I think it would be weird to remove racials. It feels like the place that the game is in now, there's not really a point to them existing. The commenter suggests like being able to choose it like a talent row or whatever. I don't really think that serves a purpose. I would say just get rid of it at that point. Just get rid of racials, or just like have the active. I don't know how I feel about that, though. If anything, I think they need to incorporate more useful or interesting ones in, right? Because the problem now is it feels like they have Meld and they have Dwarf, which are really good, and then like some of them are okay, like Goblin Jump, for example, and then a lot of races just feel like you get almost nothing to play them.
Can you imagine if you had one that was like a 20-second Poison Dispel or something on you?
Yeah, just some stuff to think, because the whole point, in my opinion, of a racial is randomly when you're playing, very rarely it should feel like I'm really glad that I'm this race. You know what I mean? Like maybe once in a dungeon or once every couple dungeons, that's the way it should feel. And now is if you're a dwarf or shadow meld, it feels great in many dungeons and situations to have dwarf or meld, to the point where if you have meld, you may use your meld 10 times in a key and feel 10 different times that you're happy that you're night elf,
Yeah.
And then you play other races, and then you're like, you're Vulpera, and okay, now you have Bag of Tricks, and you're
no.
I never pressed this button.
If you're Vulpera and you're Terrathal, you have about 10 times a dungeon where I tell you that everybody has to be unique whenever you could have pressed your Shadow Meld and done something useful.
Oh, is he a Vulpera DK?
Yes. Every time we run, I'm like, why are you Vulpera? And he goes, don't I look great? He goes, I got a nose for trouble. I go, dude, Shadow Meld.
Incredible.
The worst was when Vulpera first came out in BFA, and Didex, our tank at the time, switched to Vulpera. And when you play Vulpera Prot Warrior and you're pressing, like, I don't remember what buttons it was. Maybe it was Ignore Pain, but it does a little scream every time. It's the whole time, every key. We just hear the stupid Vulpera yelling. It's like, okay, you gotta fucking switch races, man.
That's incredible. Okay, like the one question I would have posed, like opposing point of view, is we always talk about nerfing the racials. And in the way that Growl said, is it that things are too homogenous now? Like Growl, I want to build off of Growl here. Why don't some of the other races have that cool moment? Ever?
I think, dude, the moment that you start making Bag of Tricks do something real, and the Heronir roots is like a real ability.
Bag of Tricks, you toss a fucking stone, which is a distract. They have it, Vulpera has a distract button. Not the most useful, but you kind of feel cool when you use it. And maybe it stops the pat. You guys can cross over.
Meld is useful every single pull because Threat is a really, really bad mechanic.
Okay.
And there's... Shadow Meld is universally useful, where even if you gave Vulpera a distract, that is a once every, 6 dungeon useful kind of thing, right? Like, you could give
Distract is a little weird, but it's better than nothing.
Vulpera could literally have Mind Soothe, and it would not be that useful, right? Like, it would be situationally pretty good, but you probably would not go with Vulpera for Mind Soothe. Like, they could
that would be crazy. What if you were a 5-man or whatever, like making one person go Vulpera? That's for sure a thing.
Like Heronir has Mass Dispel, right? Like, Heronir could have Mass Dispel.
Yeah, then you're like, Terrathal, Mind Soothe this pack. And then you walk past instead of having to build.
That's still like a 1 in 3 dungeon useful ability versus, again, the Shadow Meld, which is 10 times a dungeon useful.
But that's still cool.
Shadow Meld, Shadow Meld and Dwarf are also bullshit, but the other abilities should do something.
Again, Dwarf is good in 3 out of the 8 dungeons, and Shadow Meld is useful on every single pull. But I do think that they should maybe make I think they should make the race rules a little bit cooler, and they could probably curb the power of Shadow Meld a lot. There's probably some middle ground
double
here.
The cooldown or something.
I think not.
I wouldn't do that out of combat.
I would think not dropping combat. I think is probably the big thing.
So what would it do?
Reduce threat? What Tettles is
reduce
saying,
threat, pretty much. It's like Fade.
Only reduce threat. Well, then it's no. I mean, maybe. I'm not saying that's the same
power as all the other racials.
Yeah, I mean, true.
All right.
Incredible.
Next question we have from Dunler X. He says, to what degree does Blizzard have a responsibility to connect players for group content? I think a lot of problems like Mythic plus solo queue, Mythic raid roster issues, etc. are actually rooted in players who would play together and just fundamentally not knowing about each other.
This is a really hard one.
They have a lot of responsibility for it. I think that's a point, right?
Well, so here's the thing. I don't know if I like the phrase responsibility, but I think that anything that they can do to help connect players or encourage growth of guilds and communities is highly, highly beneficial. Not just to us, but to them, right? If they create, the more guilds they create, the more people they have playing their game, right? The issue is people tend to congregate and use things that they know and that they're used to rather than in-game solutions. So I think that Blizzard could build really good solutions. I've kind of changed my opinion about this, but I think if Blizzard could build really good solutions and people would still not really use them that well. And the problem is if people don't use them, then they become shit no matter how good the thing is, right? So like, for example, where do you, like, you have your in-game friends list, but you would prefer to use Discord, and you would use Discord to, like, you know, whatever. And if you would look up somebody's rating, you would use Raider.io. And if you would look up somebody's logs, you use Warcraft logs. And if you want to find a guild, you would use WoW Progress. Like, all, you know, you'd go on Reddit. There's all these different, you know, like you basically leave WoW to do all of the things. And I think people would still do that anyway, even if those systems were better. I do think maybe LFG could be improved a little bit, but like, I don't know, is there a world where you'll be able to find guilds reasonably in game? I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm off base by that. Like, it's hard because they just haven't done that, but I assume that's their thinking, is like, even if they put in a really good guild finder thing, nobody's really going to use it. Also,
I do agree with that.
How, you know, like, if you're a casual, like, it makes a lot of sense for, okay, I'm a top, you know, I'm a Hall of Fame raider, and then, you know, I'm going to look for guilds and sort by hours and this and that. But for a more casual guild, I think it would be hard to, you know, like, what are the requirements? You kind of have to like, know more about them and read more information, you know, not just statistically or stat wise.
I do think he's onto something, though, about a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, but a decent amount of the problem is rooted in players not knowing about each other.
I would agree. From my point of view, I 100% agree with Growl. Blizzard could put the best guild finder, the best friend finder there is in game, and I still think it'd be really difficult to use because you can only log into the game stuff when you're at home. But wherever I am, if I have my phone, I can see Discord. Now, should Blizzard be the curator of a community Discord with that kind of thing? I don't know that they should. It's not technically like they can, but I know that there are communities out there. I do think that a portion of the problem is people not knowing where to look. You know, there are recruitment discords out there for raids. For Mythic Plus, I know there's a couple communities out there. But like, where do they advertise? You know, if you're a leader of the, you know, a key group, where do you advertise your stuff?
Well, the thing about keys, it's more difficult because you don't really provide that much as a key group. Like, essentially just kind of like a blind date. I mean, in theory, you do kind of
for 22s, a suitable bachelor in LFG.
Yeah, but like, you know, LFG is there, you know, like, it doesn't, to me, it feels more, all right, so I guess I've rethought about what I'm saying. In M+, it feels more productive to just play the game with people and then decide if you want to play with them more, right? Rather than, okay, we're going to make a key team and then everybody show up at 9, and then you show up at 9 and you're like, I do not like these guys, right? Whereas with a raid and with guilds, the guild provide something that you can't get anywhere else. And so when you apply to a guild, you're sort of, okay, I'm on my best behavior. I'm going to put in effort and care about this thing that they've built up, and they have something to offer me. Whereas in M+, like, you know, to me, it just doesn't make sense to the people that are like, oh, let's, you know, you're not even necessarily saying you want to find a team. You're just looking to add people. You're just like, hey, I just want other people to add to play with. Obviously, you would like to have a team, but like, that just isn't really a thing in most situations of like 4 people that play together all the time, but they randomly lost their AUG and now they need you and they do 22 keys. Like, that exists, but it's not realistic, I think, for most players, especially at, you know, at lower levels where, you know, when I was doing keys around the 18 to 20 level, teams come and go. Like, you play with people for a week, and then by the next week, they have a new healer or a new tank, or this guy quit, or this guy re-rolled. Like, there's no team that plays like that seriously until they get to the higher levels.
I have gotten title almost all seasons. The last time I actually had a 5-stack that I played with consistently was season 1 of the War Within, and I only had it for half the season, right? Like, I think that most even high-end players, they don't play in a 5-stack. It's just so irregular to even play like that.
Oh, I'm going to one-guy you for the comments, by the way. The only reason that everyone added you is because you're Tettles, but if anyone else tried to do that, it would never work.
Maybe.
Sorry.
No, the thing that I want to say is I think it's entirely possible to have that Discord community. It would just take a lot of effort from somebody, because communities are formed from, networking. And all it starts is a group of 5 people who run a key, who then need to, their healer isn't there, so you invite another healer. And then you invite another DPS because they're not there. And you just slowly start inviting people. Then that Discord starts to turn into like a pickup group of keys in a way. And like that's how it grows, because that's how it works in some other games as well. You can join a Discord and hug endgame raids. There's of course checks and stuff like that. But like, make sure that people aren't coming in and not knowing the encounter and stuff like that. But they work. They're proven to work. But that's not the way it is in WoW. Which is, like, would it work in WoW? I think it could. It would just need to be led by a very, very dedicated, like, leadership.
Yeah. All right. Final question we got. It's from, I would pronounce this knee like T, but with an N. If you could change one part of the gearing process, what would it be? Additionally, what was your vision when starting the bench, and has it changed since then? Also, thank you so much for 100 episodes. You always put a smile on my face. First off, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. I think we could take the second part, which is probably the easiest, right? Anybody want to go first with this?
My vision was exactly what we did, and I feel like it hasn't changed, and we still continue to do the exact same thing 100 episodes in, which is show up once a week, chat with my friends about WoW, and then post it so that everyone else can listen if they want content.
Wait, I thought it was to rage bait the community.
We were very good at that. That was the second.
That's a side thing, it's an unintended consequence.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, I got it. I mean, yeah, we love WoW. We like talking about WoW.
Yeah,
that's it.
All right, one part of the gearing process. I'll take this one first. Fuck profession gearing. This shit is ass. Get this shit out of my game. It's so bad. Like, I understand that they try to make professions relevant. You cannot just like hand out profession gearing on the myth track to people. Also, why do I get a myth track weapon so early on? Make weapons obsolete. This cannot be real. I would delete it. I hate profession gearing. This shit sucks.
Wow.
I feel strongly about hating profession gearing, but I've always hated profession gearing. So
I know this is really funny. Ugh. I think for me, I would between seasons do a complete gear reset, not the mythic becomes champion of the next tier. I would do a full gear reset. Like mythic gear of the last tier is equal to adventurer of the new tier.
Oh.
Yeah, so that you have more of a progression through the lower level stuff.
Correct.
Because basically, yeah. So their idea has always been like, if you're doing mythic content in the first season, then you should be able to jump right into heroic content next season lower than then. But it kind of
is he lagging?
Is he cutting out? Okay. I'm hoping my computer doesn't fucking crash.
Is there water on your computer? Sorry.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching episode 100 of The Bench. Growl is disconnected. We're gonna close it out here. 2 hours and 21 minutes for the 100th episode. Thank you guys all so much. Thank you guys for watching each and every single week. You guys are the fucking best, and we will see you guys next week for episode 101. Goodbye.